There we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday, February 18th. We are reconvening as the review panel for the DTRSF, the Drug Treatment Recovery Services Funds, for reviewing the applications to be part of every Oregon County's Behavioral Health Resource Network. And where we left off was a discussion of Multnomah County. So on Friday, we met for 4 hours and went through the 5 questions for each of the applicants. And today we're going to jump into discussion and recommendations for the OAC. So I know Carly will need to do an attendance in a minute. And while she's taking attendance, I hope folks can pull up your Multnomah County slides and kind of refamiliarize yourself, remind yourself of the conversation we had about all 56 applications, and kind of the services they want to fund and what their harm reduction offerings are, all of the questions that we've been discussing together for oh so long. And as per usual, please make sure that if you pop in and out, try to let us know. I know many people will need to hop off early or join late or coming in and out. We just want to make sure we don't lose quorum. So let's start with attendance. Go ahead, Carly.
Amy,
I'm here.
Dharma, don't believe she is going to make it today. Keisha,
Here.
hey Keisha. Morgan, Zeb,
Hi, I'm here.
hey Zeb. Abby,
Here.
Ariana.
Morgan's here.
Oh, hi Morgan. Down. Ariana,
Here.
Ane, Dana, Daniel.
I'm here.
Hi Daniel. Danielle, Drew.
Drew's here.
Hey Drew. Elizabeth.
Sorry, Danielle's here too. I just couldn't
Oh.
get to mute.
No worries. I will mark you down. Elizabeth. Emily.
Elizabeth is having a hard time getting in. She should be here shortly.
Oh, thank you, Ariana. Evelyn. Grace. Gregory. Greta.
Here.
Hannah.
Here.
John. Juliana.
Here.
June.
Here.
Kathy.
I'm here.
Kylie.
Here.
Kirsten. Liz.
Here.
Mark. Sorry, I cut out. Was that Mark?
No, he will be here at 1:30.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maya.
Here.
Megan. Michelle.
Here.
Nicole Corbin. Nicole Eckler. Rachel Lawrence.
Here.
Sam. Is she here? Sarah Adelhart. Sarah Hubner. Sean.
Here.
Stanley. Tammy.
Here.
Tatiana. and Tim.
Here.
We have quorum at 23.
Thank you. Ariana, it's just about making sure we move over, Elizabeth.
Yes, it is.
Great. Carly, Elizabeth is, in the attendee list and needs to be bumped over so she can participate. Please and thank you. Okay. All right. So the work ahead of us is to move into recommendations from Multnomah County, but I want to remind folks we still have Washington and Union counties left. I sent the Washington County slides out this morning, Union County out last week. So it looks like a lot of folks are going to have to drop out early today. But if we are unable to finish, which is okay, we'll need to set up more meeting times this week because we do need to complete as soon as possible. If not today, then probably tomorrow at the very latest, because the OAC is anxiously awaiting our recommendations. So with that, I'm going to move into our discussion of Multnomah County. Any conversation, questions, comments before we start? Okay, so before we begin the conversation, I want to do a call for conflicts and for transparency and consistency, I'm going to name all of the applicants verbally so folks know. In Multnomah County, they are African Refugee Immigrant Organization, Allied Health Services, Tigard, Arbor House Portland, Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, which is the Haymarket Pole Collective, Boulder Care, Bridges to Change, Cascades Project, Cascadia, Central City Concern, CODA, FORA, Fresh Out Community-Based Reentry Program, Going Home to Haven Counseling, LLC, Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Centers, Iron Tribe, Juntos, LifeWork, Lutheran, Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon, Metroplus Association of Addiction Peer Professionals, Miracles, Morrison, Mountain View Recovery, doing business as Nat Street Recovery, Multnomah County Health Department, Native American Rehabilitation Association of the Northwest, New Avenues for Youth, Northwest Family Services, Northwest Instituto de Latino de Adicciones, El Jardín Recovery Centers, Northwest Treatment, Oregon Change Clinic, OHSU, Oregon Recovers Outside In Pain and Reverse Recovery Pathfinders, Portland Health Action Team, Portland Street Medicine Project, Patchwork Project Quest, Providence Portland Medical Center, Raphael House of Portland, Recovery Works Northwest, Southeast Works, Sovalti, the Fourth Dimension Recovery Center, Alana Club, Everly Project, Insight Alliance, Moriarty Institute, Transcending Hope, True Colors Recovery Volunteers of America, West Coast Sober Housing Women First Transition Referral Center, and Madison's Love. Keisha.
Yes, I have an actual conflict in Multnomah County.
And the nature of your conflict is?
I work for the Miracles Club and I contract with Metro Plus.
Thank you, Keisha. Any other actual or potential conflicts of interest? Okay. So our job today is to discuss we already reviewed all 56 applications. And knowing the priorities of the Oversight and Accountability Council moving forward and to make recommendations for them. We may meet as many times as necessary to provide final funding recommendations to the OAC per Oregon rule. And the goal is to complete a successful majority vote on funding recommendation as the OAC considers while they build the behavioral health resource networks in every county. We went through the call for conflicts and attendance. So just quick reminders. This is a public meeting and it's being recorded. And I know that the OHA staff who does the posting tries to get the video downloaded, processed, and posted as soon as possible. I know it is taking some time, but we're hoping to be able to get that shortened up a little bit. I think there's some folks who've been out or had just big dockets of work ahead of them. So the chat feature remains open, but please try to keep the substantive parts of the discussion verbal and in the room today. That feels good to you. Raise your hand. I'll call on folks in order. Please be concise. We do want to finish Multnomah County and move into Union or Washington, depending on how much time is left. And the Measure 110 staff has the applications available if there are questions or data needed. And of course, we absolutely want and prioritize input of the reviewers specifically. And we'll call for a vote at the end. Okay, so just as a reminder, the formula for Multnomah County is $80,525,062.89. And the total application sum was 312, almost 314, sorry, $13 million. So the conversation today will be difficult. All right. So we have already, I'm going to take a few beats on each of these 4 slides, which is all of the organizations. So the existing grantees are in orange, and I have been receiving some offline questions from applicants about that. And so if there are any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to the Measure 110 email, and we'll answer your questions about that. And we're making sure to dig thoroughly and deeply into each application and situation. So as you see from the bottom of the slide, if both of the 2 reviewers said yes, funding recommended for this service area for this applicant will be in green. If one review recommended funding, it's in blue. And if both did not recommend funding, it'll be in orange. You see the total ask and the program cost as well. And then this is page 2. Just take a few minutes and remind yourself, because it's been a few days since we've had this discussion. And if anybody wants me to pause longer, please just unmute yourself and weigh in. Page 3. And page 4. Okay. So we provided some starting points. And these are not hard and firm recommendations, but simply a way to jumpstart our conversation about how to come to funding recommendation finalization to the OAC. And this is just a reminder that even if we just take the green areas where both reviewers recommended, the amount is still over the formula by over $200 million. And, you know, since we crafted these slides, I don't even remember when we started these meetings. I think December was our first one, December? At the end of 2024, the OAC had not been meeting to discuss their priorities yet. And so we wanted to incorporate their prioritization because that's the lens through which they receive this information. And first and foremost, the OAC wants to prioritize existing grantees for continuity of care and for continuation of the burns that were built in the last grant cycle. Also prioritizing culturally specific services and other prioritizations as well. Including gender affirming care and of course only funding things that are outside the scope for patients that would be eligible for Medicaid reimbursement, among others. Okay, so Ariana, can I lean on you to help discuss how you've organized some of this information for the panel's discussion?
Sure, absolutely. This seemed like a county that was too large for just basic propositions in the manner that we've been doing. And so I set up 3 different propositions, and I followed the guidelines of what the OAC has been doing. And so there was a $5 million cap applied to each request. Orange funding requests, those are ones that had 2 no's from reviewers, were removed so that funding request doesn't affect the totals of everything. And I also did Proposition 1B is 70% of what 1A is. So then 2A is I applied the rankings that you all, when you went through and answered the questions in the reviews that you did, added that into a ranking that you've seen before, and took the top ranked organizations up to close to the cap for the entire county. And so you'll see that Proposition 2A is $23,000, or sorry, $23 million over. And at 70%, it is $790,000 under. And then so Proposition 3A is previous grantees. And those are just the yeses. And you can see that that is 51 million over. And even at 70%, it is 19 million over. And so that's how it is. I also have a sheet that has the base data, like the full data set, and all entities, and only asks that had 2 yes reviews, which only cut it down by 15 million or so ish. Are there any questions on this slide that I can answer? Hearing none.
So, and Ariana, you were gonna, you do live math with what this looks like, or what do you
Yes,
think?
I absolutely can. Would you like me to share?
Before we do that, I would love to get a sense of how folks are feeling about this. And maybe actually it would be helpful if Morgan, Amy, Zeb, oh, Keisha, sorry, conflict can't, but you know, the conversations that are happening at the OAC are, well, first of all, I think there's some acknowledgement we need to do. And we know this has been hard for every county, and Multnomah is just the same, but there were networks of providers that were built, and the behavioral resource networks have done amazing work, building really important programming for people in need. And this 4-year grant cycle and the funds that are allotted through cannabis revenue are not enough. It's not enough. And so there are going to be lots of organizations that are not going to be, the dollars aren't there. And it's incredibly painful. And so the OAC has worked really hard to find ways to make sure that the dollars are spread around in the most thoughtful way possible, and trying to keep everybody at the table. Knowing that, you know, fully funding some and giving no money to others is also a terrible option. So the OAC has worked really hard to find ways to reduce budgets proportionally, knowing that on the back end, OHA will need to go back to these applicants and say, we know you applied for, you know, these service areas, but with such a small budget, what's going to be workable for you? You know, where do you want to focus your service provision? And I don't know, I just think this, I just want to name that, just knowing that this is a really hard conversation, right? And so if you've been watching some of the OAC meetings, you'll see that part of the calculus in coming to a final dollar amount has been identifying any non-direct service budget line item in the applicant's budget to just help bring down the not to exceed dollar amount to a level that everybody can get a bite of the apple. And so that is some of the work that will be happening on the back end. So I'm just curious across the board today, how do you all, based on what we know so far and how rough this is, and where the OAC has been taking its prioritization process, where would you like to start this conversation? And thank you, Ariana, so much for doing so much of this legwork. Yummy.
Based on everything that's been considered, to me, the best place to start is going to be with 3B.
May I share?
Oh yeah, let me stop sharing.
Okay, so Proposition 3. One thing I do want to note is that we keep having these erroneous $16 amounts in here, and I've just replaced them with the phrase $16 so that they don't become part of the total and so that the totals are correct. So do note that. So we have let's see, this column right here is essentially, I'm sorry, this column right here is essentially Proposition 3A with the $5 million cap. 70% of that is this column with a $3.5 million cap, which is 70% of 5 million. So that's where those numbers are coming from. And let me just make this clearer.
And I'll add that the $5 million sort of like starting point, which I know for many applicants is a significant reduction unto itself, is in the formula. That's the base funding before any additional metrics or variables were included, including hopes of homeless persons, emergency department visits, and overdose rates also. And that was also direction that the OAC had given us as staff is, can you look at a proportional starting point or reduction based on organization size and the county size? And that felt like a reasonable place to start. So Multnomah County as an extra large county does have that $5 million spot. Tammy, your hand's still up, but I think that's a stale hand. So I'm going to go over to Kathy.
So you're saying that the Prop 3B that you put in there, Ariana, that's 70%?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's a 70% reduction from Prop 3A.
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense from the other previous slide. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan?
Can you hear me?
I'm seeing an issue with this math though. Please stand by while I correct it.
Thank you. Standing by. Morgan?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm pretty concerned about the 3.5 million cap for Multnomah County. This being an extra large county, there's just not precedent for us lowering all that far below their ask. Not urgently, but I would ask OHA to get that column percent of total ask.
Can you, the percent of total, okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Morgan, you're a little muffled, but at a recent OAC meeting, Morgan asked for, can you show us what the difference is? So if someone, in terms of what the potential reduction is it 20% of their original ask? Is it 80%? What does that look like? So. Yeah.
I can add that in 1 second.
Thanks, Ariana.
What I am dealing with right now is that this amount is inaccurate down here. So I'm trying to fix it on the fly.
And so Morgan,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts about even a $5 million limit for grantees who have been, who submitted proposals for significantly more because that's what they identify, whether you want to say they shoot their shot or really that's what they need. And then an extra large county.
I think a $5 million cap still is going to hurt people, but is more reasonable and is on par with what we've done in some other counties, just proportionate, where it's quite the cut still, but it's a reasonable amount of money for an org to get in a 4-year span. So I would be comfortable with the 5-year plan. $5 million cap, but then we need to think, so to my fellow council members here, we need to take some organizations off. Not everybody that was funded previously is going to be funded again. And how I would perhaps do this is start looking at some that have the highest proportion of their services be Medicaid eligible. And in my notes, I flagged Providence.
Morgan, do you want me to calculate the percentage or remove Providence?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want me to calculate the percentage of the original ask still?
Yes.
Okay.
For whether it's column I or column J, probably column I, since if other council members want to see column J because they think the $3.5 million cap is better, we can do that. But yeah, so percent of total ask there in column I. And that's all I got for now. So if we are going to not fund previously funded organizations, what metrics can we look at to do that in the most equitable way to try to prevent closures and layoffs as much as possible, which is why I went to the Medicaid and alternative streams of funding. You know, because there was an issue. Asking the Medicaid question was, the intent there was perfect, right? Because we don't want people to supplant our funds with Medicaid. But on the applications, it just became this like box ticking exercise where everybody says a similar thing. And Medicaid is not the only way that people get funded. So I wish we would have asked about alternate funding streams, because there were some applicants where pretty sure they're probably quite heavily funded by DHS and other agencies. Okay, but yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks for kicking us off. Seb.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. I'm having very similar thoughts as you. I do believe, I think, and I could be wrong, somebody correct me, but in the fiscal and technical narrative, doesn't it ask about other financial resources that people are getting, other than just Medicaid or Measure 110? Now, I don't want to open up a can of worms for sure, but we got to figure out a way to get below the to this allotment.
Morgan?
I think we just ask about their financial viability, past the grant. And the orgs just kind of will make like a list or sort of vague hand wavy of, yeah, we have other stuff going on. But the only question that was, because we specifically asked it and got a really thorough answer, was Medicaid.
I'll share. So the question one is, if your organization A offers services that are eligible for Medicaid or other health insurance reimbursement, and B can build Medicaid or other health insurance. And then if either A or B are true, please describe how your organization plans to use grant funds and services in a way that would not supplant Measure 110 covered services.
All right, so there's nothing in there about other forms of resource funding, just Medicaid?
Well, the questions are about accounting and how are you able to track for receipt for expenditures and funds and a sustainability plan. So number 4 on the technical narrative, what are the details of your organization's sustainability plan to ensure the long-term viability and effectiveness of your proposed grant activities beyond the duration of the grant funding? So depending on how an organization chooses to answer that, right? It's not tell us about your other funding. What else, Deb, before Morgan's hands up again?
Just looking at this, can you scroll down a little bit on the slide? Whoever has control.
1
I
second.
want to see the total for peer support.
Yeah, and as Ariana is mathing live, thank you, Ariana, the numbers you'll see in the green are the total asks, not any reduced ask, right? So there's no change in that.
Yeah, that
All
is
right.
correct. This is column E. So that's 109 million right there.
So just from looking at this from a plain view here, we got $109 million ask and peer review. And I can't see the exact services, but is that like 32 million for SGD services?
Yes,
And then harm reduction, would that be the last one, 32 million
yes, and housing 47.
and 47? I
Mhm.
mean, so right off the top, we got an imbalance right there. Now, granted, nobody appreciates peers more than I do because they are the lifeblood and everything, but we got to take a look there and make sure we have, across the board, every service is getting what it needs.
Morgan?
Yeah, I'm with Zeb on that one. I know we had moved away from doing caps per service, but I think it might be warranted here just to try to make sure the other services are funded in something approaching an equitable manner. And then organizations can rearrange their budget as they see fit. I'm not saying, if I put a $2 million cap, that's your cap. But I'm just trying to change the totals essentially on the back end. So I would, look at some type of cap in peers. And I see some orgs have really, really large asks just in peers alone. And obviously that's their specialty. That's what they focus on predominantly.
And, just because we've got folks listening, all of these are recommended for funding because they're all amazing
Yes.
programs, right? It has nothing to do with that.
But looking at my notes here, to the other council members, several of these organizations applied for our funds to run or support their deflection programs. Now, deflection has a separate legislative funding stream. I'm sure it's not enough to do the services that they want to do, but here's my concern with us funding deflection services. Very few people are going to access them. And it's not open to the public. It's only there for people who have passed through police contact first. And there is an already functioning deflection center. So I don't think we should fund people to do deflection. I don't. And I think if we took those off,
Kathy?
As I came in on the weekend and was looking at the partners documentation that was submitted with the application. Some of them were very clear that they were part of the deflection program. Some of them were very clear that they were dealing with law enforcement and courts and all of that. But that was only on a handful of the ones that I looked at. There's really no clarity to identify them as directly working with deflection programs. Most are working with other burn providers. Most are connected with their county mental health and their behavioral health areas. I think I found 2 out of the, like I said, a handful or more of them that I looked at. So it would take some heavy scrutinizing of the partner document that was submitted with the application in order to find that out.
well, I'm not sure if that's true, because they can partner with deflection. But if in their like, that's all right, that's an auxiliary service that they're providing. But if in their narrative, the core
agree.
of their services pivoted around deflection, that is my concern. And that was Multnomah County, which isn't on this list because it's not previously funded, and Volunteers of America.
And they'd have to specify it in their project scope. Is that what you're saying? They would?
Yes.
Okay.
And then things like Morrison Child and Family Services. I just do not see how that program, per its scope, is not funded directly by DHS. And there's a few other programs here for people coming out of incarceration that seem to be almost embedded in the probation department, not just like providing housing to people who are coming out. Not like just distinct services that are for people coming out of prison, but I swear from hearing their project scope a couple times, it was as if they were providing a service for like the Department of Community Justice. This is why I just wish they would have asked about, you know, what proportion of their budget is covered by other agencies, or, you know, if they're paid per capita, but we didn't. So
I'm happy to remove any that you think maybe are erroneous, and I can do that on the fly and put them back in if opinions change.
I think I want to try to open up the conversation a little bit more, and I really appreciate Morgan and Zeb and Kathy for leaning in so hard. It's rough to do, so thank you for that. Really curious what other panelists are thinking based on where this conversation is going, what you're seeing on the screen, and while folks are thinking about what they want to say. Kathy, I'm sorry, what's your name? Ariana. Morrison, on the peers, it's a 0. Did you remove that just to kind of see what that would look like, or was that an error?
Let me click back to the base data really quick.
It's still, you know, across the right, there's still, oh,
Let me double check that.
okay. So funny, I keep trying to scroll through your spreadsheet because I forget it's not me. Are there
Well,
other thoughts from other panelists?
That is 0 on the peer support for Morrison.
thank you, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. That must built into program cost then. Michelle, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention I'm in agreement with Morgan about the non-funding of deflection programs.
Okay, so we know that was Multnomah County. Oh, and I failed to mention at the call for conflicts. I used to be a Multnomah County employee. I don't work there. I don't have relatives that work there, but just for transparency's sake. But the Multnomah County was not an existing grantee, so they're not on this list. Do y'all want to verify that Volunteers of America was another organization who indicated that in their application? Were there other applicants you wanted to look at as well about deflection, are there any folks in the panel today who have concerns about that way of thinking and who would offer an alternative? So I'm looking at Volunteers of America's project scope. Are there other organizations you all recall from your discussion on Friday that you would like to suggest be looked at for the deflection intersection?
I reviewed Multnomah County, and I think it was, if I'm remembering, it was primarily deflection was
Yeah,
their
but they're
source.
not an existing grantee, so
Oh,
they
so
just.
they're not even on here. Oh, sorry. It's all so small, it's hard to read. I'm sorry.
No
Sorry, I
worries.
missed that.
No worries.
But it was their application that made me think this because I was like, wow, they want us to 100% fund their deflection program.
So, for Volunteers of America, I'm in the Multnomah County project scope. And screenings. VOA will conduct screenings of potential clients to assess their needs. Screenings will take place in the community, including at the Multnomah County Deflection Center, homeless camps, the Multnomah County Justice Center, which is the main jail downtown, and the Inverness Jail, which is a different jail out near the airport, and community outreach events. That's where the screenings will take place. Peer support. VOA Oregon is partnering with the Multnomah County Deflection Center to provide real-time access to peer mentors and conducting in-reach to Multnomah County Inverness Jail. We will also be seeking additional community locations where recovery mentors can be co-located. So that's a mention. It does not sound to me like it is wholly deflection. And partnerships. We have an established and strong relationship with Multnomah County, including in particular the Behavioral Health Division and the Department of Community Justice, DCJ. We also work closely with HealthShare and Care Oregon, one of 6 behavioral health agencies participating in Care Oregon's SHIFT, Strategic Healthcare Investment for Transformation Initiative. We currently are part of the East Multnomah Behavioral Health Resource Network.
Just as a point of information, in case everybody isn't aware, there are currently 3, possibly 4. I'm sorry, I'm going off memory. Burns in Multnomah County alone, and they will be combined into one large burn.
And because I want to make sure we're being crystal clear about this discussion around deflection, I've also pulled up the VOA budget just to identify and ensure that that we're being really clear and transparent about the intersection with the deflection programming. So. Greta.
So I have a question, but if other people feel this is so not necessary to know, then you can disregard it. But if these are all the entities that were previously funded in Multnomah County, how much money what's the difference between the funding available this time versus last time? Is this less money? I guess I'm just curious about how did we fund all these organizations last time, and now we just aren't even close to having enough money. And I understand expansion of services, but just curious.
Great question. Someone have that on the top of their head, like Jason Hall or someone else?
I can get that in 1 second.
Yeah,
it's less money. It's less money because it's going over a larger period of time. So
correct.
that's why it is less money.
So 409 million compared to the 427 million we've got now, but you got to remember the 409 was not a full 4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But that funding covered in like what do you call it?
Capital.
Capital, yeah.
It did.
And the amount for Multnomah County last time was 91,548,570 as opposed to the 80 million. So that's down by 11 million-ish.
It's still probably comparable in some ways because we've got more months on our grant. It's a 4-year, whereas before we did a 18-month, and then we did an extension, and then we did an extension. So there was not quite. I don't know what the total number of months is myself, but I just know that the total amount that was allocated was 409 million.
Thank you. I think that helps understand how we're here today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, this is information I gleaned from reviewing so many applications, is that folks had a lot of successes in the first 3 years, and we're building on that. And we're like, wow, there's so much need. What we're doing is working. Let's do more of that. So there was some, you know, increases in, you know, we want to serve this many more people in our program. And there was also about a $10 million increase in service areas. So organizations who apply for service areas that they haven't been providing in this grant cycle for the next grant cycle. So that's another increase too, which is great, right? But I think that the sustainability piece is real, which leaves us in this position that Zeb's going to help muddle our way through. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, for Lane County, I think the other counties, like we said, the existing providers, I mean, were a priority along with the OAC priorities, but that agencies we couldn't approve agency expanding into new service areas. And I don't know how many of these existing providers are expanding into new service areas, not just expanding their staff.
I have that information because I prepared that for the OAC from when this is ready. And what that was, so y'all are aware, it's just taking each existing grantee's budget workbook and looking at the past Measure 110 participant tab and looking to see which service areas the Alano Club expanded to harm reduction at 36.
I did miss several.
Here, I'll share this link with you, Ariana, through Teams so you can just take a peek.
Great.
So that's the sum there. And I think, Zeb, with your thinking, you know, doing any sort of limit on a total grant ask absolutely would remove like any of those expansions, but it doesn't have a laser focus like the OAC has been having, which is first, you know, let's not expand, y'all, and then doing any caps or reductions past that. All right. We have to do this. And this is, I don't really have any other advice other than this is what we're required to do. So, I think we're back at our soup thinning conversation. And let, you know, so the approach has been taking is, you know, spread it around as much as we can, just so that any existing grantee gets something, and see what they can do with that. knowing it's not going to be what they propose, because of course not. Or the hard decision to tell an existing grantee, you're going to need to shutter. I mean, are both awful options, but options they are. And what I heard, sorry, Zeb, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
No.
No, it's a extremely tough decision. I'm just trying to think about it in a way that, existing programs with existing staff are losing people are losing their jobs at less of less in terms of like if a program is expanding into another area, they're most likely have to add staff or change, or people have to apply for new jobs in that other area. If they applied in their original ask, then people are less likely to, theoretically, there should be more funding that they can adequately staff. But this is hard. This is, it's extremely hard.
Eva, is there a way, is the areas where expansion is happening identified here?
I'm working on adding that in.
Oh, okay. Because I'm wondering if the areas where if it's expansion, if that can be picked up maybe by the programs that just have a little bit and then not expand some programs, but keep other programs open or something like that.
And that's really the thinking that the OAC's been engaging in, and I'm sure they'll take that approach.
And then the other question I would have is if the cap, because some of these, like I know that one, Yassine's Love was at 16 million, that if the cap is so extreme, like the change is so drastic that it just takes them off the table because they can't do what they want to do with 5 million, right? Because I know for that program in particular, they had a huge chunk in housing, for example, because they were going to rent 2 houses in Portland. And if at 5 million, they probably couldn't even do that. So just, not that I want to not fund that, but it just feels like if we're cutting a program so significantly that they can't even do the basics of what their sort of mission is, then do we, would that be a decision that we make that it's not, I don't want to say not worth funding, but that it's not, the funding is this is so small that it wouldn't meet the program mission or goal. That just, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I use that as an example, but there were others that were like 12 million, 15 million. And if you're putting 2/3 of their budget, that seems pretty extreme.
Well, kind of adding you, Kirsten, so this is row 45, if you're looking the very last row, if you're looking at your screen there. $5 million, so their total ask, was 16, but if you look at hold on, that SUD, their ask was 2 million. Housing, their ask was 4 million. Harm reduction, which is not on here because it's blue, but was 3 million. So I think what we're going to need to do kind of at the end after this is all decided is be like, hey, you got this award. It is not nearly what you asked for. So clearly you can't do many of the things you want. What are the service areas you could do, and how many people could you serve, and kind of like having that back and forth to really empower folks to take a bite of this apple, but really figure out what's a workable solution. And then it's a lot of conversations with providers to make sure all of these service areas are covered, even though the array might not look like what you got on the screen there.
That makes sense.
Michelle?
I think one of the things that would help me on this is seeing who bills Medicaid and who does not, because I know that like for SUD treatment, a lot of those services, is there a way to tell looking at this?
Not from this data, no.
Not from this, okay.
And even the organizations that was something that I looked at for every single provider, read really clearly their technical narrative questions 1 and 2. And even for large organizations that did not want to, that can bill Medicaid, I should say, they were really clear that the Measure 110 funding was for folks that are uninsured or underinsured. So, I think part of the problem is the healthcare system at large.
True. I'm leaning toward a cap because I hate for, like, I love people to have choice and for there to be an array of different providers. That's just my opinion, though.
Morgan?
Sorry. Looking at the $5 million cap, because when we first started doing the grant reviews, if an organization's ask was too large for us to accommodate, we didn't fund them. So that there's precedent here. In that percent of total ask, if we are, thinning the soups to the point where they can't operate, that is not a good use of our funds. So I'm thinking, and this is going to hurt, what I'm about to say sucks, but this whole thing sucks. If the percent of total ask gets to 25% or below, with the $5 million cap, just start taking them off. If we can only give them a quarter of their funds, we can't afford to fund them, I think.
But then the only one that affects, Morgan, is Miracles Club.
Wait a minute, what was I just looking at then?
The $5 million cap.
Oh, I was looking at the $3.5 million cap. Sorry.
Michelle, is that a new hand?
I think
No.
Michelle's.
Go ahead, Zeb.
I guess I'm confused. Like let's say for Miracles, like if they're an existing provider and they're providing these services before, and they aren't expanding above 25% of their budget, this is not why. I'm not sure why the math is so far over the allotment if that's the formula being followed now.
Because the total that Miracles Club requested is $24 million.
Well, that definitely helps. Now I can't see that on that slide, so I didn't know that. But and then I just wondered what the original ask was when they first got approved. I mean, I don't think probably wasn't 24 million. I don't know though. I can't remember.
Anybody who has the applications, which I think y'all do, can go take a look. Because it's part of it's tab 3 on the budget workbook. Which I'm pulling up right now.
And I can kind of speak to Miracles Club because I did review them for this county. They are wanting to expand current service area, like that they're already funded to provide. They are wanting to expand. So they're wanting to not only continue services, but hire more staff. And I did mention in my review, they did have quite a few budget line items that I felt could be removed. I think one of them was like over $100,000 a year for a staff retreat. So there was a few things like that. But either way, like with a cap or whatever, they're going to be reduced. I mean, you can look at their budget and stuff, but regardless, they're going to be reduced.
That's right. Miracles Club last go round was awarded $5,344,000 thousand and some change. Sorry, Zeb.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear.
Yeah. 5,344,439.56, according to their application.
Oh, all right, thank you. And one thing is, I know that, one thing that we're talking about potentially is, when it comes to negotiations, there could be a deeper look at what previous amounts were asked for versus this time. But I know we have to get this in front of the OAC Council, though. So I guess that's kind of a problem, but thank you for that information.
Okay, tell me if this is too hard to read, but each of the expansion areas are now marked compared to last funding cycle for all of these previously funded folks.
Zeb?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. My hearing is a little off today. Can you repeat that?
Sure, the cells that have orange lettering, and I'm sure that's not the easiest to read, but those are previously funded or areas that this previously funded provider is expanding into. For example, Providence added harm reduction this go round.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful. I'll let Amy talk before, and then I'll say something.
Go ahead, Amy.
So if we took out the expansion amounts, would that make us closer to in column I? I just was wondering if we, took out the expansion part of it, that would help us get closer to what we need to move forward to the OAC Council.
Sure, in some cases it would.
So why don't we do that and make a motion to move Multnomah County forward to the OAC Council and have them do what they need to do?
Would you like me to do the math on that before you move?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Zeb has his hand up too.
Oh, I was just going to say what Amy said. Great points, Amy.
So Morgan must be having connectivity issues, and she wrote in the chat, can someone please read? I'll read. But this is missing all of the proposed expansions within a previously funded service area, which is likely a huge portion of their budget.
I'm just double checking if this moves anyone down below that cap.
Well, even if it moved them below the cap, I mean, we could move it forward and have the OAC look at it. I mean, our goal is to get us as close as possible and to move it forward to the OAC for final numbers and approval. I think we can do that comfortably.
And any expansion in existing service areas is a level of, well, I was the one who prepared the information for the OAC, with all of the expanded service areas, everything is talked about, but that is not something I did. I can take another look in preparation for the OAC meeting. Or if not me, maybe someone else on our team, if that will be helpful to do. I do think that just, continuing to knock folks' applications down, to these incredibly low numbers is going to probably get at a lot of that naturally. But if folks are interested in more of a kind of a scalpel, more specific approach, that's something we can also take on. Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would appreciate the scalpel approach. Just from the applications that I read, there's so many FTEs that people want to hire and services that want to be expanded. And if that just can't happen in Multnomah County because there's just not enough money, that's what it is. And so being able to look at that and ensure that we are continuing to fund previous existing services at a rate that enables them to actually do the work. But then not allowing a lot of the proposed expansion, I think that would be a pretty good strategy. And I bet it would get us down to the allotment.
I agree with you, Morgan. I think that's how we should probably go about this. All great points. I mean, just the reality of it is, this can't be used to expand services, really. It's really what we can utilize it for, sustaining existing services.
And I will share that, even we've all looked at many of these budgets. Sometimes it's hard to know. So I think it's something that our team could take a stab at, and do the best, but just know, there isn't a consistent, check this box if you're expanding within your existing service areas, right? So just saying that to be cautionary.
If I could offer a thought.
Yep, by all means.
Sometimes SUD, peer support, and housing were the three areas that were stated as priorities. And there are a couple of agencies on here who would just get funded for one area that is outside of those, like assessment. And perhaps those could be looked at closely.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Morgan?
I mean, harm reduction is still one of our service areas that we need to ensure funding for. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm talking more about screening and assessment.
Yeah, then in that case, that's reasonable, as long as like the workflow for people accessing the burn still functions without people doing screening and assessment. That's a little over my head, though.
No, meaning that, for example, if this one that is, if we take out the expansion and the program cost is 0, then the only thing that we would be funding them for is assessment.
I just want to use the caution that the original, I think the OAC voted on this, is that if we're reducing an organization's budget by whatever metric we do, that the organization should be able to choose how they work that.
That's very true.
I guess the only problem with that is if they're just approved for one area.
Right.
Right.
of course.
And I just want to clarify too, with Morgan too, I wasn't talking about making the harm reduction less important or nothing like that. I was talking about the screening and assessments too.
Ariana, would you be so kind to give us a bit of an update of kind of what we're looking at, what you've been working on so that we just get it? Let's.
$47 million over. With a $3.5 million cap, we're at 11 million over, 11.5.
I'll just say out loud, like, I'm comfortable with moving the H column, that what you just said, the Prop 38 forward to the council, even though it's 11 million over, at least gets us pretty close to that mark, and there could be further conversation at the OAC level. I know it's not ideal, but I would be comfortable with that.
Is that a motion, Zeb? I'll double it. I'll second it.
Let's hear what Morgan has to say, and then potentially.
Yeah, Zeb, I mean, I agree with that. I think that's a good plan. And then for that 11 million, I would just love to poke in their budgets a little and see where there's like very clear, large scale expansion happening, probably by looking at the FTEs they want to add. And then once we have an idea of which orgs are doing that and in what capacity, I think we could probably shave off the other 11 million.
Yeah, that sounds great. I like that.
All right, make your motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to pass forward column, it's column H to the OAC Council with the notes that we want to take a deeper dive into the budgets to make sure programs aren't expanding beyond 25%. Looking at their budgets with that caveat on there. And I'm not sure if I need to add something else.
Let's make sure we're talking about expansions within previously funded areas. So they were already funded for peer mentors, but now they're trying to expand and hire 12 new peers.
Yeah, can you state that motion? I'll rescind my motion because it needs to be added to.
Here, let me paste what I wrote on there. What do you think? It's a motion to move Multnomah County Proposal 3, column H, for existing providers and removing all expansion services and adding a $3.5 million cap. This includes a deeper dive into the budgets for deflection program work. Is that what that was, or did I misinterpret that?
No, that's missing. Well, you can leave that because we did forget to also say the deflection thing, which, well,
I
no,
thought
because
you did. I'm
VOA.
sorry.
Yeah, so take that out. So this is looking at expansions within previously funded service areas.
Okay. So it says existing providers, for existing providers and removing all expansion services and adding a 3.5 cap. And I can remove that last line. Does that work, or?
No, because historically, when we're talking about expansion services, we're talking about expanding service areas. And so that is what that has historically been defined as. So I just want to be
Okay.
really clear here that that's not what we're talking about this time.
Expanding service areas.
Well, expanding within service areas. Within. Does that
Oh,
make sense?
it does. Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I've captured it. I might not have. I don't know. Motion to move Multnomah County Proposal 3, Column H, for existing providers and removing all expanding within service. That did not come out right. What do I need to fix in that language here?
Okay, so we're not removing all. Okay, so it's expand at that rate and cap, and then remove service expansions into new areas, and then examine, but not remove per se.
Okay, hold on. You're changing all of the language around. So we're talking about existing providers. Is that correct? That part
The first part is correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. And you want to remove, I said expansion services, but you didn't like that.
Well, you can leave that because that's one thing, and we're doing another thing.
Okay. That's what I missed, is that break in sentence there. Sorry. My apologies on that. For existing providers, and of course I deleted it, so I have to retype it. Let me see here. And removing all expansion services at the $3.5 million cap, right? Is that part right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're also not going to fund deflection programs, right?
Yes, but it's tricky because the only one on there is VOA, and they're doing deflection and other things in an ambiguous way. So that gets really challenging. Only Multnomah Counties was super clear that like they wanted our money entirely to do deflection, and they're not on this list.
So you don't want that last sentence on the first one. This includes a deeper dive into the budgets for deflection program work, or you do? You don't want it, or you do?
It doesn't matter. Whose ever motion this is decides.
That would be Zeb. What would you like, Zeb? Would you like that last sentence on this includes a deeper dive into the budgets for deflection program work?
I like to leave it off.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Now let's take a look at what I typed, and I made
Well,
it.
I think we're still missing the juice at the end, the meat of what we were trying to get at.
Okay. What's the last part that you want on there?
And to take a closer look at the budgets for service expansion that is occurring within a previously funded service area.
So basically you're looking for at the budgets and trying to, that's on the existing providers, make sure that you're not expanding within that service area. Let's say like provider A gave $500,000 for their substance use, and you want to make sure that they're not asking for $750 this time around.
Close. So if they're asking for $1 million for peer mentors, and last budget cycle we funded them for peer mentors. But when we look at the budget now, it says I want to hire 12 new peers at 1 FTE and da 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 da.
Right.
So
And
yeah, identify. Right, exactly.
Closer look at the budgets that are expanding within service areas.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a little cautious about the word budgets expanding because previously they were allowed to ask for capital outlay. So if we look at a dollar number,
Okay, so
but
that
someone,
last one there, Zeb, are you agreeable with what I put in there? Or do you want that worded without the word budgets or?
Just a second. I'm mulling it over in my brain here as I read it.
Okay, you mull all you need to.
Okay, that looks okay to me. Morgan, does that look okay to you, Amy?
yeah. As long as OHA understands the mission there.
That's why I was trying to be really clear with it, is because I want to make sure that it's not misinterpreted.
Yeah, exactly what Morgan was saying. Yeah.
So we're good.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move Multnomah County Proposal 3, column H for existing providers and removing all expansion services at 3.5 million cap. Closer look at budgets that are expanding within service areas.
I second.
All right, Zeb moves, Amy seconds. Any discussion?
So a quick note that I double checked the numbers in column J, which equates to column H here, proposition 3B, and found that it's now down to 9.3 million to get rid of. So there's a small bright spot.
Oh, the deficit is lower.
Yes.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, Carly, let's vote, please.
Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
Zeb?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Ariana?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Danielle?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Emily? Did she? I think she did. Gregory?
Yes.
Greta?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
John? Juliana?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Maya?
Yes.
Megan? Michelle?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, did Nicole Egler come in? I don't want to skip over her, so.
She's out today.
Okay, thank you. And Sam is not here. Sarah Adelhart?
Yes.
Sarah Hubner? Sean?
Yes.
Stanley? Tammy?
Yes.
Tatiana? And Tim.
Yes.
That passes with 26.
Okay. That was awful. It's so heartbreaking. Ariana, you can stop screen sharing. Thank you so, so much for driving us through that really hard conversation. Really appreciate you and everybody. And really thanks to Zeb and Amy and Morgan for leaning in so hard. That was a lot. This is filtering. Don't say anyway, gonna stay my lane. All right. So we have two options. We can move into Washington County or we can move into Union County. And this is our last meeting that is scheduled. And if we don't get through both, we'll have to schedule more. So what are your preferences? Do you want to tackle Washington or you want to tackle Union?
The easiest.
Union.
You want a minute to take a breath? After we get through Union County, we'll take a 5-minute break. How about that? Okay.
Maybe even a 5.5-minute break.
Such incredible incentives we have.
Oh my God, that's awesome. All right. I am not prepared. Let me find it. Way too many windows open. I know I have all of my DTRSF conversations ready. Here we go. Union County. Coming in a moment. Come on. Oh, for the love of all things wonderful in the world. Let's go. All right, found it. Slideshow from beginning. Share screen. And we're going to do a conflict check real quick. And welcome back, Keisha. All right. Does anybody have a potential or actual conflict of interest with Older Care, Center for Human Development, Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living, or Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness? Michelle.
I have an actual conflict with Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness. I volunteer for their recovery housing.
Thank you, Michelle. And June.
Yeah, I have an actual conflict of interest with Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness. I sit on their board.
Thank you both. Any other conflicts, actual or potential? Okay, moving on. I'm not going to repeat where we were. We're just going to hop to here we go. So Union County. Known for its scenic landscapes, including the Wallowa and Blue Mountain ranges in the Grand Ronde Valley, population 26,000, county seats LeGrand, also the largest city in the region. It's predominantly rural with agricultural, forestry, and outdoor recreation forming its backbone. Demographic makeup, it's predominantly white, with small percentages of Latine or Latino residents and other minority groups. The area has a relatively older population, median age is around 40. It's quite small town atmosphere. Poverty rate is just under 16%. Median household income is 64,000. Then we have the age distribution. IDD rate is 12.5%. 39% of households are low to moderate income, and unemployment rate is just under 5%. Of the 4 applications submitted, all 4 passed minimum scoring requirements. Countywide formula is 3.8, and the ask is 8.6. So it is $4.8 million over. Okay. Here we are at our homepage. Our new applicants are Boulder Care and Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness. Our existing providers are Center for Human Development and Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living. You will see SUD and housing, both with blue, and harm reduction for Boulder Care is at 11. Actually, I wonder, RN, if those two numbers are flipped, because Boulder Care's program costs at every application has been 11,000. Maybe the harm reduction was 58. You wouldn't mind double checking. Anyway, and then both Center for Human Development and Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness both apply for all 6 service areas, and EOCAL just for housing and harm reduction. Any questions? Comments? We're going to move to a description of these applications and answering the 5 questions. And first up for Boulder Care are Kirsten Brown and Tammy.
Hi, I just took a bite of something, so hold on one second. Sorry.
Same. I had Washington County ready, not Union, so bear with me.
Okay.
Right.
And Tammy and Tatiana are up next for Center for Human Development after Boulder Care. All right.
All right. Hi, everyone. So Boulder Care, you know Boulder Care. Is this our last review of Boulder Care?
No.
Second
Go on.
class. Oh, they're in Washington County too. Okay. All right. So question number 7 for Boulder Care. Boulder Care is committed to providing intersectional, culturally, and linguistically specific services to patients. Boulder maintains an active organization-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion program that engages staff in ongoing discussion and educational topics using both internal and outside expertise. Boulder is focused on a variety of issues affecting its diverse patient population, for example, anti-racism, the intersection of race and the war on drugs, language and education for specific populations, such as Native American, criminal justice, and how it mishandles addiction, harm reduction principles. Boulder Care prioritizes a diverse care team, including clinicians and care advocates who will provide care themselves and help educate the larger care team staff based on their own lived experience and unique perspectives. Currently, the Boulder team is comprised of the following. 33% of clinicians and clinical support staff identify as non-white, Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, Latinx, Asian, or 2 or more races. 80% of clinicians and clinical support staff identify as female, and 20% as male. And 3.6% of clinicians and clinical support staff identify as LGBTQAI plus or two-spirited. And as far as the other questions, I know we've gone through them before, but Boulder Care can bill Medicaid. And in addition, let's see, Boulder Care partners with nearly all Oregon Health Plan CCOs to provide services to its existing patients, and will first submit claims for reimbursement for clinical services to Oregon Health Plan entities as primary payer. And they are payer of last resort. It looks like neither reviewer recommended harm reduction, and both recommended peer support. Their peer supports are not in the field or out in community. I think they're telephonically based. That's what, right? Isn't that right? That's what I remember. Okay. Thank you, Abby. Thanks for the head nod.
I believe so.
Yep. And the last question, is that all the questions? I feel like there's one more.
The harm reduction is
Harm reduction is basically supplies and medication management in people's homes.
And do you the budget up, Kirsten? Can you confirm the program cost versus harm reduction? Unless this is our 35th county and maybe I'm just remembering wrong, but I just want to make sure it's right.
I'm also checking that right now.
Oh, good.
Great.
So the total application is $316,000. 1,000 is screening. Let's see. Oh, I can make this smaller. Hold on. Sorry. Assessment is 11,000. SUD treatment 284,000. Peer support 28,000. Harm housing 11,000. Which harm reduction 69,000. And I don't. Let's see. Naloxone, fentanyl strips, marketing expenses, and cell phones is what they've got on their services and supplies.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we've got the right numbers in here. I know Ariane is taking a double look because I know. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's not what they have under their harm reduction.
Yes, it's not correct. I'm fixing it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was seeing the same thing. The numbers weren't adding up, but I was also hoping, Kristen, you can shed some light on their scores for Boulder Care, because they scored really low on both.
Let me pull up I know when I reviewed them, so much of their application is not specific to the county. So all the questions around community supports, community needs. I think I scored in the ones, 0 to 1s, just because they really didn't reflect in their application anything about Union County specifically.
I did the same on mine as well. It was mainly just a cut, copy, and paste application. So when it gets into the part, it's like, what can you do for that county? There's no depth to it. So I scored as low.
But I also know that they provide, a telehealth support. And I think we've talked about that before in previous meetings. That's really invaluable to these kind of rural communities that don't have a lot of other support. So I think that's always the balance with Boulder Care. But the peer support, the reason I scored them, at least I don't know why I scored them yes on peer support, was because of the availability of 24/7 peer support lines. And they do have a good, support services, it seemed like, over the phone. So for that area, I thought seemed like a good resource.
Thank you both for that information.
Yeah.
And I see Ariana working in there, and Ariana, just send me a ping when you want me to refresh, and we'll move on to Center for Human Development. Okay. So that was, I believe, Tatiana and Tammy. Yes, it is.
I'm getting it.
I'll start you off. Center for Human Development applied for all 6 service areas. Housing was recommended by one of the 2 reviewers, so we can ask Tammy and Tatiana about how that went for them. Looks like they're applying for harm reduction, but there's no dollars in there, so possibly the harm reduction is built into the program cost. We can ask about that. Screening at 500,000, assessments at 125, and SUD at 1.5. Tammy, after you read question 7, let us know their answer about not billing Medicaid or not supplanting.
Okay, so question number 7. CHD provides culturally and linguistically responsive services to all members of our community. While the majority of the clients we serve are white, English-speaking adults, youth, and families, our community does have a large community of Pacific Islanders who speak Malinese, as well as a growing Latinx community. CHD makes efforts to employ people in our agency that reflects the diversity of the clients we serve, including bicultural and bilingual staff. We also have access to a local interpreter who speaks Malinese or Marshallese, not sure how to pronounce that, and can meet in person with our clients. In addition, we have access to a wide variety of language interpretation through Linguava Language Interpreter Agency. That's it. And then I'm sorry, Abby, what was your other question?
The SUD question about not billing Medicaid.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I got that one up too. The Center for Human Development, Inc., CHD, does offer and has the ability to bill for services that are eligible for Medicaid and other insurance. Center for Human Development offers a full patient continuum of mental health and addiction services and accepts Medicaid and other health insurances for reimbursement.
And in their question 2, do they talk about not supplanting Medicaid or any other details there?
They plan to use the grant fund specifically to provide services and resources that otherwise CHD would not provide. Because ballot measure 110 covered services are low barrier, they are designed for people who are not enrolled in the typical treatment services or insurance coverage that is not required to be eligible for any of the grant funding. And then they talk about how they plan on tracking the funds through the EHR. And that's pretty much it.
And for peer support, how are the peers integrated into the perhaps SUD or housing service areas?
That one I wasn't able to find yet. I'm still scanning. Sorry, I had 3 on Washington County and 2 on this one, so I was trying to drag them all out.
And while you're looking, are the peers based in the office or in the fields?
Sorry, I'm still scanning. Let's see, it says they coordinates with local agencies, law enforcement, schools, Department of Human Services, treatment courts, emergency shelters, housing facilities, mental health services, hospitals, and more. This allows clients to receive truly wraparound services, whether they are specific to the town, county, or the region. They do talk about the community and the risk of involvement for criminal justice system or child welfare, and that they work with those low income and have housing challenges.
And for housing, they're one of the, did you recommend or not recommend their housing? And can you share for $30,000 over 4 years what it funds?
Let me pull up there.
I don't mind stepping in on this. Their housing is based on a crisis respite, that 29,000. That's all it is.
Thank you for the save.
No. And the harm reduction looks like it's a 00. Program costs are 500. Is there anything built into harm reduction and what they are going to offer? Particularly because both reviewers suggested funding.
It includes naloxone distribution, overdose prevention activities, safer use supplies, wound care supplies, and wounds related to substance use, education from peers and with lived experience, access to HIV and Hep C testing and fentanyl test strips. It also includes contingency management for approximately 400 individuals. And it's used for food and for family or gas cards.
Thanks, Kathy. Amy.
So what if, I'm looking at this, right? And didn't you have a formula you were doing if we were this much over, we get like 70% of their ask or 75% of their ask? Can we see what that would look like?
Well, we need to first make sure we're discussing all of the applicants before we move into discussion about funding recommendations.
Oh, because I was like, and she just talked about the harm reduction from that Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness, and then
we're not there yet. We're still
we're not there yet.
Human development.
I'm just jumping around all over the place. I'm like scanning this thing. Sorry, I'm stepping out.
Go. But we are done with Center for Human Development. We are moving on to EOCIL, and those reviewers are on A, and I show unassigned on my list, but I know that is false. Who are the reviewers?
It's me. It's Kylie.
Kylie. All right, take us away. You know the 5 questions. Oh,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make one last thing on Center for Human Development in their project scope. They're currently an SUD provider for the Union County Deflection Program and expect the number of people we serve in both low barrier and formal treatment to increase as we work towards community culture where peers are called more frequently as deflected from jail or other systems. So I just wanted to call that out because that was a Morgan thing that she had brought up.
Thank you. Kylie, over to you.
Okie dokie. So let me pull up Ariana's great sheet. Okay. Question 7. Yes, to enhance prevention, harm reduction, and housing outcomes, all services are culturally and linguistically tailored to offer disability accommodations and alternative formats. EOCIL tailors prevention and service approaches to meet the diverse needs of key communities. Men who have sex with men, transgender, sex worker, people who are institutionalized, incarcerated, and or other closed settings, people who inject drugs, migrants, minority ethnic communities, BIPOC, people living with disabilities. We participate in Escalate TA, Stigma Reduction, and Arctic, Anti-Racist Trauma-Informed Care Work Groups, and sit on the Oregon Departments of Justice Hate Crime Bias Work Group. Our services are accessible through mobile outreach, telehealth, anonymous harm reduction text line, language line, in-person interpretation, TTY, and multiple engagement approaches. We have staff that are both bilingual and bicultural. They are not eligible for Medicaid services. And because they have selected housing, and there's no monetary designation for harm. However, they do identify that in their harm reduction offerings, they include naloxone, syringe exchange, wound care, safer sex supplies, and clinical testing. And their housing that's offered is sheltered based or transitional, hotel based and emergency, as well as rent assistance, financial assistance with permanent housing. They create single family residences, or that's within their suite of services. Currently, they have 6 clients who can spend 365 nights of emergency hotel stays. They have a LeGrand house, a 3-bedroom, for offering low barrier 60-night stays, single family residences, completely renovated, fully support. Their goal is, or annually, they serve about 18 clients with about 1,080 nights of shelter included within that.
Kathy?
I just want to make one notation. What is under their program costs actually belongs in their harm reduction. It is not under program. So their harm reduction is 1.1 million.
And what do they want to do with that money?
The harm reduction does include all of the things. So the naloxone, the syringe exchange, wound care, safer sex, and clinical testing, if that is the monetary amount associated. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay. Any questions about this application or comments?
Do we have their program costs then?
0.
0. Okay.
All right. Our next is Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living, and it looks like both of our reviewers, Nicole Corbin and Dana, are not here today. Kathy and Kylie, can you continue, please?
I think Zeb might have a question.
I got a real quick question.
I'm sorry.
We just reviewed Center for Human Development, correct? Were those numbers adding up from what Kathy said? Did they match the slides?
You know, I didn't even look at that myself. I noticed that the housing is correct. I didn't check the other numbers.
Let's ask Ariana.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
That's all right. I'm on it. I actually, the only thing I really noticed on their proposed budget was that underneath their total ask of 3.4 million, they had a total administrative cost of 361,437, which underneath that it says the total administrative cost is 10%. So I think that they were just trying to indicate that there's 10% of that total ask was going towards program, even though it's not listed under programs. So $499, $215, 80 cents on screenings, 124,883.80 on assessments, 1,572,066.66 on SUD, and $748,344.61 on PEER. I know that their housing is correct, and you are correct. I'm glad you called this because harm reduction shows 509,251,444 cents. Or sorry, I really read that wrong. $509,251.44. So that program cost, it looks like that got moved over from harm reduction, and there is zero under their program cost.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so the total is correct. then.
Yes, the total's correct.
Great. And Ariana just fixed that. Thank you. Okay, EOCIL. We're going back to Kathy and Kylie for a rescue, please. If you could read question 7 and then discuss housing and then verify the harm reduction. We're looking at another 0 for harm reduction and a BC program cost.
Didn't we just do EOC?
Yeah, I just read it.
I thought.
No,
you
we're
went-
on the last one.
You went
Oregon.
back. That's why I got it. That's why that was so confusing. Thank you, Zeb. Okay,
You have that other one
so
pulled
we're
up?
on Eastern Oregon, which yes, I am correct that we still need a rescue because Nicole and Dana are not present. So
Correct.
how many of these have
Today is Tuesday.
And so they applied for all 6 service areas. All were double recommends. So let's start with the question 7.
Question 7, EOHW provides culturally and linguistically specific services to underserved communities in Union County, including Hispanic and Pacific Islander populations. Our services will address the unique needs of these communities by employing bilingual PSS who are from these communities and speak Spanish or Marshallese. These certified specialists will offer culturally responsive services, conduct outreach, harm reduction, and recovery support tailored to the cultural and linguistic needs of the people served.
All right, they applied for 6,600 for screening and 19,800 for assessments, and for SUD, a small number. Could you share their Medicaid answer?
It says that they're eligible for the Oregon Health Plan and other insurance. So we accept and bill OHP, Medicare, Medicaid, and they will use the grant funds to enhance services to make them accessible to all without supplanting Measure 110 covered services. Specifically, we will use these funds to expand culturally and linguistically responsive services by hiring bilingual peer support specialists to provide tailored outreach, harm reduction, and recovery housing support for underserved communities. And what was the other?
I'm gonna guess that those FTE are built into the program costs because $5,000 does not do a lot of peer support work over 4 years.
Pulling that up right now.
Thank you.
Program cost just shows a program manager and a program analyst, along with vehicles, 2 vehicles, 1 van, building maintenance, and so forth in there. Ariana's in there. There's substance use treatment. They do not have any staff listed there.
Right.
I can read what their narrative says. The overall objective of low barrier substance use treatment is to increase access and improve client outcomes. PSS will teach the Living in Balance curriculum each Saturday, open to all in the community. Living in Balance is a clinically validated evidence-based program. And it goes on to talk about that program. And it has only, let's see, that's where I'm getting messed up. They don't have it broken down in here like it says. It says, am I looking at the right one? Or am I? Oh yeah, it just has, that's the cost of the program right there, that $1,700 for that living program. And then it sounds like,
No, okay. And then for the peers, are they in the field or in the office?
It doesn't say specifically if this is, virtual or what on this treatment. And I'm looking anywhere to where this is got the staffing, and it looks like, oh, there it is. They have it under housing is where their peer support specialists, recovery housing. They got 2 of those there, and they have 2 harm reduction peer support specialists. That's where they have under harm reduction.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And,
split it all apart.
and what kind of housing?
Recovery housing and decreased stimulated related overdoses, decreased. Let me see here. It looks like it's just recovery housing, support at recovery housing.
Okay. And finally, harm reduction.
Harm reduction does carry 2 peer support specialists to conduct harm reduction services through street outreach, meeting individuals where they feel most comfortable away from a clinical facility. The PSS will build rapport and respect where people want access. And they have just a salary on that. They have for what they're handing out, fentanyl test strips, backpacks, safe user kit with needle exchange supplies and wound care kits, alcohol swabs, fentanyl testing strips, first aid, educational brochures, and they are looking at the purchase and distribution of naloxone. And they indicate 50 boxes at $45 each.
And anything of note in the program costs?
Their program cost has the program manager or program analyst, HR, and then it lists the vehicles that I talked about. Starts out year 1 at $65K, and it goes down from there. It looks more like maintenance for them. They also have 1 van. They have building maintenance. Bonterra, I don't know what that is. Sorry. They have an accountant underneath that, and that is their total program cost there.
You appreciate the save today. Any questions from anybody or comments before we move to discussing the whole county? Okay. So here is just the greens, the double yeses. It's still $4.8 million over the total county. And I'm gonna pass the baton over to Ariana for her support.
One second.
Is this big enough, Zeb? Do you want me to make it full screen?
That works. I got my face right in my computer, so.
All right. You're the only eyeballs that I can track. All right now. So if anybody needs it bigger, I can make it full screen again.
Okay. So first I want to say, I'm not sure what happened, but the program costs and the harm reduction costs are flipped in this slide. Program costs should be 0 for both, and harm reduction should be 509 and the other. So I'm just going to fix this slide on the fly.
I think I can do it from here, Ariana.
Okay, feel free.
Okay.
However, the totals are both over the $2 million cap. So that leaves us with 4 million with a cap of 3,866,000. So we are 133,000 over, which is pretty close. I didn't do a whole lot of scenarios for this county because it is really close. And then the other one that I did was just sort of for your edification, information, discussion points. And that is with 3 entities funded for better coverage, and I did take down the total cap. So that's after.
Yep. So this is just decreased NTEs, and it does not include Boulder Care. So if someone feels like that's an important aspect to include in Union County. And Keisha.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about a purchase of a van, 165,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe if we take that out, we might be even closer to the formula for this slide right here, proposal 2.
Yeah, I agree.
So are y'all leaning towards funding existing grantees only, or adding or reducing the existing grantees asks and including Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness? Because those are the two different potential, well, and or Boulder Care too. So the discussion about the van aside, which scenario would you like to start from?
I like the proposal that's up right now.
Adding another
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I agree. Because I think Center for Human Development is the CMHP, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So this, Ariana, do you have offhand knowing, I guess
do
what you
need- Yeah, I do want to make some corrections to this because once again, the harm reduction and the program costs have been flipped. But it's the totals would not change.
And I just wanted to ask, and I guess I could just look at the previous slide, how much the NTE is reduced and whether that would kind of eliminate the cost of a vehicle. But I'm gonna tab back real quick to homepage here. So we've got 1.5, 1, and 1.5. And looking here, we've got 3.4, 2.4, and 2.7. So not significant reductions to all three of those organizations. So I wanted to make sure that folks were transparently understanding. Okay, so those are big cuts, big reductions, not like other counties, but still. Keisha, go ahead.
Yeah, I would still just remove the van because it's a capital cost and it's not really no maneuver room around what they do with their budget for that because we're not paying for capital costs.
And my understanding is this go around, we are paying for vehicles because that is built into.
I thought the maintenance, but not the maintenance for vehicles, but not purchasing a new vehicle.
No, unless someone else on the Measure One team wants to.
As far as I
Everybody's
knew,
running
we have approved other vehicles already. So yeah, we are approving vehicles.
Yes, it's vehicles on there. And just an FYI, the vehicle van, the 2 cars and a van were on Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness.
Yeah, I know cars and vans are on there, but was it for the maintenance and not purchase though? That's the
purchase and maintenance.
No, not on the, no, just overall. I thought we weren't purchasing vehicles, but we were paying for the upkeep of the vehicles that people have already purchased.
Vehicles have been allowed for purchase.
Yep. Yeah, we only disallowed capital like building purchases and renovations there, but vehicles you can purchase and maintain both.
Given we do have precedents on covering vehicles with other counties, I'm wondering if we need to make a reduction. We just make a reduction and then let the agency in partnership with the oversight committee make a final decision about where that cut should be within the overall budget.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I misunderstood that part.
And just looking at the difference, Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness, that 1.5 is their original ask was 2.7, so it's 1.2 million less than their ask. Morgan. Oh, mute. There you go.
Could I see the percent of their NTE of these totals? But I feel like this is a pretty good, what's on the screen now is solid. It's pretty substantial reductions for the orgs, but they can decide where to cut from out of their budget. So
yes, it will be 1 moment while I calculate that.
I just want to see the percentages just to make sure that we're like a previous grantee isn't getting obliterated to allow a new org to come in. And as long as that's not happening, I would be content probably voting on this. What do y'all think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the previous grantees was CMHP though.
Deb, sorry, were you waiting for me?
oh, sorry. I would just like to see the $133,000 difference just taken from Center for Human Development. Based on their application and what they reported, they can best weather the storm in terms of reduction in their services, I feel.
To get it right to the formula. Ariana, do you have a spreadsheet you're working on with this?
I do. Would you like me to share it?
Yeah, since Zeb's asking for a little more math, I'm gonna give you the baton. Thank you.
Sorry, too many windows.
Sorry, the NTE even wasn't on that slide, so I couldn't even approximate it.
Okay, so what we're discussing is this. No, that's not what we're discussing. 1 second. I apologize for the delay.
I very much appreciate the live math. Incredible work.
Okay, here we go. Here are the percentages of the original asks. So you can see they're all between 40 and 55% of the original ask. And then I'm sorry, what was the next request? I think it was from Zeb.
Sorry, I was just saying take the 133, whatever it is, over from the Center for Human Development. Just based off their application, it seemed like they would be able to best weather a storm financially because of their ability to bill.
So we could take it, Zeb, I like what you're saying. I was thinking if we could even take it out of the screenings or assessment area, because that's billable services. So if we take that out of, I would say screenings or assessments, I'm sorry, take it out of the assessments ask, then that's not going to hurt them too bad because that's a billable service.
Morgan?
Yeah, so I mean that would put Center for Human Development down to like 1,367,000 or something like that. But instead of doing just the screening and assessments, I think we've just been letting orgs decide where to cut it, but we can make like a note probably for them to look at their screening and assessments. But historically, we've just been cutting from the overall budget and letting them decide. So the point out here, though, with these percentages is that the newest organization is getting the highest proportion of their ask. But in context, one of the orgs is the CMHP. So probably not mad about that, their reduction. And then EOCIL at 40% of their ask. So what do y'all think? Are these numbers fair? Do we go ahead or make more adjustments?
Nisha?
Sorry, I was looking for my button. Trying to look, come back to me a second.
Then
Oh, I was just gonna say, looking at that, good point out there, Morgan. Could we take 250 off of Oregon Health and Wellness and put it on Oregon Center for Independent Living?
250,000?
250,000.
Good job, Zeb. That looks so much better, right?
Nisha.
Yeah, I make a motion, we move forward with the proposal to.
Keisha moves to move forward with proposal 2. There on rows
Second.
6 through 29.
Who was that second?
Morgan.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even hear it. And Morgan seconds. Discussion.
I added a couple other things that I was hearing. I'm going to put the motion in the chat, but Keisha, you made the motion, is that correct?
Yes, and
Yes.
Morgan seconded.
All right. What I heard being discussed was of the proposal 2 with the caps of 1 million to 1.5 million, which is our caps in there. And then removing 250 from Eastern Oregon Health and Wellness and put it on EOCIL, and that you want the remaining overage to come from the Center for Human Development. Is that correct?
You're getting good at this, Kathy.
No, I thought we did all that math beforehand.
You're correct. I don't have to have that 250,000 in there.
Yeah, we already moved it.
But we should have the remaining needs to come from the Center for Human Development.
I thought she already took it out.
I have not taken it out because there was discussion about letting CHD decide where to take it from.
Yeah, but we're taking it off the total amount though. We're not
Right,
saying
but
where they should take it from.
So, the motion is Keisha's. Kathy put an updated text in the chat. No, I'm curious, Keisha, how you want to handle this.
I really just want to remove the overage now and it be to formula so it can be a swift push through.
All right.
Let me calculate. Oh,
You did that wrong.
Yep.
I watched it and I let you do it.
Thanks, Kathy. Jeez.
I know.
There we are.
Okay.
No.
So,
What?
Keisha.
All right. So I make a motion to
All
move
right.
forward proposal 2.
Do we need to, Keisha, we should be formal and have you rescind your original motion.
But that was my original motion.
Yeah, I know the numbers updated though, so I want folks to know
Okay.
what timestamp, they're looking at the screen, you know?
I rescind my original motion and now motion that we move forward with proposal 2 for Union County.
I second.
You should move Zeb seconds. Discussion? All right, no discussion?
Can I ask one question? We did not eliminate the van, is that right? I'm just wondering about
That's correct.
like the rural areas, if we're not funding Boulder Care, how just ensuring those far out communities are getting support.
We did not remove the van.
Okay.
They're allowed, and we're also empowering organizations to right size their offerings to work for their individual communities.
Perfect.
Cool, cool. Carly?
Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Keisha?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
Zeb?
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Ariana?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Danielle?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Greta?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Juliana?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yeah.
Kylie?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Liz?
Sorry, yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Maya?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Sarah Adelhart?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
And Tim?
Yes.
That passes with 25.
Great job. County number 35. It is 3:23. We're going to take a break until 3:30, and we're going to start right on the nose. I just put in the chat all of the reviewers for Washington County. So if y'all take a quick peek, make sure you're ready to lean in and do your reporting when we start back at 3:30. Keisha, your hand is up. Is that an old hand?
Yeah, old.
Old hand. All right. See y'all at 3:30 on the nose. All righty, we're back. It is 3:30. And we're gonna jump into Washington County. And first on deck, let's see, Greta. I saw your name,
I'm
Greta.
here.
Hey, and Tammy. And I'm gonna share my screen and we'll do our conflicts real quick. Once I get this slideshow going from the beginning, Washington County, Oregon, and here we go. Okay, so this is a call for conflicts. So anybody with an actual or a potential conflict of interest, please let us know. Your providers are, I can't see the top organization, so I'm going to go to another slide because I have this little window that sticks out in front of it. And here we go. Nope. Sorry, folks. Here we go. African Refugee Immigrant Organization, Allied Health Services, Tigard, Boulder Care Provider Group, British Exchange, CODA, Forest Grove Foundation, HIV Alliance, Ideal Option, Juntos Northwest, LifeWorks Northwest, Lutheran Community Services Northwest, Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon, Miracles Club, Mountain View Recovery, DBA Knapp Street, Northwest Instituto Latino de Adicciones, Oregon Recovery Works, Sequoia Mental Health Services Solutions Group Northwest, Fourth Dimension, Bologna Cloud, Transcending Hope, Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center, Washington County Health and Human Services is everybody. And I'm going to back out while I ask, are there any actual or potential conflicts of interest with this county? Keisha.
I have a conflict, an actual conflict. I work for the Miracles Club.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Why am I muting myself? My goodness. Okay, Washington County is part of the Portland metro area and is known for its vibrant communities and strong economy. County has a population of approximately 600,000 people. One of the most populous counties in the state. Demographics are diverse, with most residents identifying as white and significant Latina and Asian communities. Washington County boasts a mix of urban and suburban areas. Key cities are Beaverton, Hillsborough, Tigard. County is home to numerous tech companies, contributing to its status as a major economic center within the region. Excellent public schools, outdoor recreational opportunities, high quality of life. Population, there you have it, just shy of 600,000. Median household income is 103. Racial composition is 59% white, 19% Latino, 12% Asian, 2% Black and other. Poverty rates 8%. There you have your age distribution. IDD rates for residents under 65 years old is 7.6%. Low to moderate income is 38% of households, and the unemployment rate is 3.9%. All right, we went through all of the applications here, and just late eyeballs, old eyeballs. Total countywide formula is 29 million. Of the total applications submitted, only one did not pass the minimum scoring requirement. So the countywide ask is 86, bringing it to a grand total of 57 million over the formula amount. All right. I wish I could get this little thing that pops down to go away, but that's all right. I'm just going to deal with it. So here you've got our home base. You see all the greens, blues, and oranges. And Ariana, thank you so much again for putting all of this information together. We're going to start our 5-question process. Starting with question 7 and moving into explanation of peer support for African Refugee Immigrant Organization. Greta, over to you.
I didn't review this one. I actually reviewed Solutions Group Northwest, which popped up top of your list, which was
popped up at the top. I'm wrong. It's Hannah and Tatiana. Are either Hannah or Tatiana here?
Yes, I'm here. I have my Excel book pulled up, but let me pull up the document 1 second.
Thank you.
I'm also here. Great. You can start us out, Hannah, while you're pulling that up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so peers of this, they're not a previously funded ballot measure, Measure 110 grantee. They are a culturally and linguistically specific organization serving African American and African refugee immigrant populations for 6 years now. They did an excellent job really highlighting the unique needs of African immigrants and refugees as distinct and separate from the broader African American population in Oregon. They definitely meet the definition of being culturally responsive and culturally specific. It appears they have just really strong peer workforce that comes from the community they're serving. I won't read the whole number 7 answer, just indicating because of their staff, their volunteers, and their target priority population. They did a really great job talking about equity for this community. They currently do not bill or have the capacity to bill Medicaid or other insurance. And they are proposing, I don't see the slide in front of me, but I believe screening and peer support, specifically using peers to help connect, do outreach, and bring people into treatment through other said treatment partnerships.
And then it didn't say whether the peers would be out in the community or in the office, but I assume that it's a part of their kind of service delivery, like the peers will be supporting with screening. And they also requested funding for case manager, but I'm unsure. Yeah, I'm unable to see if they specifically called out like outreach in the community or if the peers were going to be in-house. But yes. And I think Tatiana covered most of it, or all of it, actually.
Great. Any questions? Right, thank you both. That was awesome. We're going to move on to Allied Health Services. Dana is not here. I don't think John is here either. Looking. No. Can we get a Measure 110 team assist, please?
I can read question 7.
Thank you.
Let's see this. Let me make sure this is correct. Sorry. This is Allied Health, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why? Okay. It says CRC Health is dedicated to providing trauma-informed, culturally and linguistically inclusive services. Our staff undergoes comprehensive training in trauma-informed care and cultural competence, focusing on safety, trust, and collaboration. This approach, based on SAMHSA's guidelines, is integrated into all service areas to create supportive environments that empower individuals and prevent re-traumatization. At admission, we assess for trauma and allow patients to decide when and how to address it, building trust and empowerment. We also offer a Seeking Safety Trauma Recovery Group, an evidence-based model for treating PTSD and substance abuse. Through ongoing clinician training, CRC Health ensures care is trauma-informed, patient-centered, and sensitive to individual needs. We prioritize cultural competence by understanding and respecting cultural beliefs, values, and practices of the populations we serve, with staff from diverse backgrounds receiving ongoing training to ensure services are sensitive to diverse community needs. Additionally, we address language barriers through interpretation and translation services, making our services accessible to individuals with limited English proficiency, and ensuring that everyone can access the care they need regardless of their language proficiency. The CTC Group's policy on cultural competency and diversity promotes sensitivity and adherence to this philosophy across all centers. Employees are required to acknowledge and sign the policy during orientation, with documentation maintained in personnel records. Each CTC develops a cultural competency plan tailored to local demographics, addressing factors like culture, age, gender, and language. The plan integrates patient data, staff experience, and community resources. Ongoing staff training fosters cultural awareness, covering aspects such as traditions, health values, and attitudes towards substance dependence and mental illness.
Thank you.
And
So it shows that there's a blue box for assessment. Can you confirm from their workbook what that is?
let me look. It appears that there was an NA in one of them. The proposed budget, so there was not an assigned budget to assessments either. But it appears that within
indicated low barrier substance use treatment and harm reduction services in their application.
That's
A.
correct. Yep, and there's no
Great.
line
All
items.
right. We'll ignore that. So Sud, for 3.2 million, what was their answer about Medicaid?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy. And
Thanks, Kathy.
number 2, description of the supplanting and what they're going to do with the funds if they can build it.
They just said that they have an accountant who's really good at funding and they'll make sure not to spend it. Basically, that's what it said. That's my words, not theirs, but that's what they said. They have somebody who's really good at doing the grant money. So they want to make sure that it's not spent incorrectly.
And so this is for underserved or underinsured or uninsured folks?
Yeah, it says self-pay, uninsured, underinsured, facing high out-of-pocket costs. These funds will help cover treatment costs, expand services, and eliminate financial barriers for these individuals. The funding allows to expand naloxone distribution as well. They say in the project scope.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm really sorry.
Oh yeah, so it says that there is, in an effort to not supplant self-pay, uninsured or underinsured folks facing high out-of-pocket costs. The funds that they're seeking will help cover treatment costs, expand services, and eliminate financial barriers, as well as expand naloxone distribution. And then there's another, they do provide MAT services, and it says that it helps bridge existing gaps by subsidizing treatment costs, expanding outreach, and enhancing supportive services to ensure no one's financial limitations affect their care they're receiving.
Do you read that as they will provide services no matter what? I mean,
That's a good question.
So I know in their fiscal narrative one, they, this budget will also assist patients with high copays and deductibles, acting as the biller of last resort. By doing so, it ensures that financial constraints do not hinder access to necessary treatments. The fee-for-service model employed will allow the county to reimburse only for services that have been rendered, ensuring that funds are used efficiently and effectively, directly correlating expenditure with patient care delivered. So it doesn't really.
And then I have to expand on that, Kathy, is it says we are requesting $3+ million over 4 years to provide comprehensive MAT and opioid use disorder care for 224 individuals in Washington County. Tigard CTC serves over 569 patients annually, with about 10% or 56 self-pay, uninsured or underinsured, facing high out-of-pocket. So it appears that in Washington County, 224 individuals served. And my interpretation of this is if you use the 10% rule that they're identifying, then that would be 24 individuals about in Washington County with this budget.
Thank you very much for that information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that touches on their SUD and harm reduction. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions before we move to Boulder Care? And Boulder Care is Amy and June.
I have number 7 up. I can read it. Boulder Care is committed to providing intersectional, cultural, and linguistically specific services to patients. Boulder maintains an active organization-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion program that engages staff in an ongoing discussion and educational topics using both internal and outside expertise. Boulder is focused on a variety of issues affecting its diverse patient population. For example, anti-racism, the intersection of race and the war on drugs, language education for specific populations, e.g. Native American, criminal justice and how it mishandles addiction, harm reduction principles. Boulder Care prioritizes a diverse care team, including clinicians and care advocates who will provide care themselves and help educate the larger care team staff based on their own lived experience and unique perspectives. Currently, the Boulder team is comprised of the following: 33% of the clinicians and clinical staff, support staff identify as non-white, Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, Latinx, Asian, or 2 or more races. 80% of clinicians and clinical support staff identify as female and 20% as male. And 3.6% of clinicians and clinical staff identify as LGBTQIA+ or Two-Spirit. Let's see, I don't have the thing up here. Hold on one second. So they're, okay. SUD, peer support, it's the same as all the other Boulder Care applications that I've seen. They're proposing to provide, they are able to bill. They plan on using funding to cover what's not covered by insurance. They are proposing to provide telehealth MAT treatment, telehealth peer support, and some harm reduction supplies sent via mail. Their peer support is telehealth only. It's not in the community. And their harm reduction program is just naloxone and drug testing supplies, I believe, like fentanyl test strips. I do want to say that I only recommended their SUD. I did not recommend the peer support or harm reduction. And I only recommended the SUD if there was no other MAT options for this county, and this county was big, so I did approve it if there wasn't other like telemedicine or like easy access MAT treatment for this county.
Great. Thanks, June. Any questions for June on this, our last Boulder Care? Great. Bridges to Change, Juliana, you are on deck. And then
hold on. This is Amy, and I'd like to apologize to everybody. My husband had to have laser, and I don't have access to my documents, and I am so sorry.
All right, Amy, we got you back. Good to know. Okay. So Juliana, you are up next with Bridges, and then Coda will be June.
Okay.
For question 7, Bridges to Change does not provide culturally or linguistically specific services. Bridges to Change does provide translation services either through the community members' health insurance benefit or through contracted translation services to ensure that we can meet the needs of individuals seeking care, referrals, or coordination. And that's it. They, a little trouble scrolling, hold on there. Applicant can bill Medicaid in limited situations, and they say that due to limited reimbursement from CCOs, the funds would be used for housing models not currently funded by M110.
Yeah, and they just applied for peers in housing.
Yes. So for peer support, the funds will be used to provide full-time peer support provider for their men's and women's housing units. So it is integrated into their housing and it is on site. And the funds will also be used to provide training in stages of change counseling, harm reduction tools, and administering Narcan. The housing is for stabilization housing services, again, for their men's and their women's unit. It's supportive housing for those with high acuity mental health and substance use concerns. Yeah, did I get everything?
Yeah, I think you did. Any questions? For Julian and Bridges? Okay. June, you are up with Coda and Forest Grove. Foundation is Daniel Garcia and Kristen Brown after Coda.
Okay, CODA number 7. CODA provides culturally and linguistically responsive services. By utilizing our burn partners, we have been able to successfully answer the needs of our culturally and linguistically diverse communities, relying on their expertise when services require a more specific approach. That's all they answered for 7. They plan on doing assessments, peer support, and harm reduction. For their question number 1, CODA Inc. does offer services that are eligible for Medicaid and or other health insurance reimbursement and does bill Medicaid and other health insurance providers. The M110 funds support the provision of services to individuals who are not enrolled in Medicaid or other reimbursement eligible services. With this funding, they want to have people to have access to ASAM assessments immediately. So that's what that is about. Their peer support does not sound like it's in community. It sounds like when people come in to their like brick and mortar, they have peers in their admissions team there. So that's what it sounded like to me. And their harm reduction program is really around withdrawal management, MOUD initiation, and they also talk about a sobering center. So they want to, and let me look at their budget. I'm sorry, you guys, these were some of the first ones I did, so I don't have these ones like part of their budgets for supplies, naloxone. It does not look like they're going to be doing the full spectrum harm reduction. They're not a full spectrum, as they don't list other supplies than some hygiene supplies, naloxone, bottled water, food. But they do have a sobering center lease. And I know that was part of their harm reduction program, was that sobering center. I think maybe I answered everything.
You did. Anybody have questions on CODA's application for June? Thanks, June.
Wait, one more thing I did want to say, and I just don't know this to be true, but I did think that their budget for their harm reduction could be reduced. They are asking for nurses, nursing staff, and I did think that those might be like Medicaid eligible, but I wasn't sure. Just throwing that out there.
All right. Moving on, we've got Forest Grove Foundation, Danielle Garcia and Kirsten Brown.
Hi. Again, is Daniel here too? I think he might have.
I am, but
good.
after this one I need to go, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
No way.
So yeah, just fill the gaps where I'm missing, but answer 7 was very short. They said Forest Grove that they provide culture-specific services to people experiencing homelessness, specifically in the rural and semi-rural areas of Washington County. The needs of rural and semi-rural people experiencing homelessness are different from those in urban areas, with access to public transportation being one of the biggest barriers. However, they do not provide any further description about services that are culturally and linguistically specific populations, by the way. On the Medicaid part, it says Forest Grove Foundation does not offer services that are eligible for Medicaid or other health insurance reimbursement and does not have the ability to bill Medicaid or other health insurance. And then they add, it is not possible for our organization to use grant funds in a way that would supplant Measure 110 covered services. On the peers piece, my interpretation is that their peer services are in the office, and as well as the integrated services are just with the substance use disorder, only in the office. However, the housing and harm reduction, they seem to be both in the office and outside of the office. The type of housing that they offered is shelter-based, is transitional actually, and the harm reduction offerings that they provide in the proposal is a distribution of food as harm reduction supplies directly to the community.
I was just going to add that their transitional program is a transitional housing pod village that they're hoping to house, I think, up to 16 individuals at a time in the village, with navigation towards housing goals, as well as supporting up to 30 individuals at a time at the service center. And then the service center would be a hub where HIV Alliance and other harm reduction providers could come, but they are actually, it sounded like they were providing what Daniel, you just talked about, the food as harm reduction program, making food more accessible and reliable, but relying on community providers for their harm reduction efforts. That's at least what I got out of the application.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Kristen.
And we read the same one.
Yes.
Yes. So
are they housing? I mean, is that what they do? Housing provider? Like,
yeah, it's really a homeless support advocacy group that is setting up basically an M110 funded village.
Okay. And so that to access the service would it not be necessary to have substance use issues? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I mean, it says that, they started really as an outreach program that meets people where they are. In the past 4 years, they visited campsites, parking lots, and other locations where folks are experiencing homelessness in order to build relationships, complete housing and shelter assessments, and make referrals to the continuum of care. And I think along with that, they provide, said referrals for said services, but I don't see that they have treatment providers on staff per se, but they do have peers staying at the shelter or at the village 24/7. But let me
All right, and then the money in the budget,
Alexa, stop.
I'm sorry, can you break it down a little bit what they're asking for then, in terms of their budget real quick?
Yeah. Let's see, I have the fiscal here. That's the fiscal narrative. Let me pull the budget up. All right, let's see. Oh, I got a lot on their budget. So 6 million of their budget is housing and 4 million is harm reduction. And nothing in screening, assessment, and SUD treatment. And peer support is 3 million, it's almost 4 million in peer support over the 4 years. When I read this, I was curious about the food as harm reduction when there was no real discussion of providing supplies other than referring to agencies that do harm reduction as far as funding this particular program's harm reduction. So anyway, that was one question that I had when looking at it, at the application.
Right, and what I understood from that is because the location where they're at, where it's very hard for them to mobilize to get these services, so they want to bring food as a ways of harm reduction.
I mean, it's really a holistic approach to health, is what they're talking about, minimizing chronic health disease concerns, and creating stability.
And the only reason I ask it, because I mean, it's a huge, issue, and they're doing amazing work. I just, in terms of, I just want to ask these questions because it's not a housing grant just on its own, right? It's not,
right.
Combined with the substance use and stuff. So that's why I asked those clarifying questions. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's see. Under the question around coordinate, I mean, I think it is what as a community-based organization, underserved area, we've consistently found that networking partnerships is kind of where they are, and they're part of the continuum of care, and providing housing and assessment and shelter is where their primary focus is. I think that is true.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And their current burn.
And they're asking for $10.185 million. Is that correct? Or is it less? No, that's the one.
It's Forest Grove Foundation. Sorry, I have the 10.185.
Right.
So 6 million for housing, 4 million for harm reduction. And the peer support is almost 4 million for peer support.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Sorry, I'm back. Apologies.
You're good.
All right. So you discussed all of Forest Grove Foundation. Any other questions? Thank you for the discussion. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on the budget. I think, Kirsten, maybe on accident, you called out the numbers in orange on the budget spreadsheet. That's why I pulled it up. So the peers is just over 2 million, housing is 4 million, and harm reduction is 2.
That's with program costs. You're right.
Add it up as you go. So just want to make sure I pulled it up.
No wonder Zeb was like, what? Sorry about that.
Okay. Fantastic. Appreciate it. So we are moving on to HIV Alliance. Danielle Cartwright and Kirsten still on deck again.
All right. I'll read number 7. It says all services at HIV Alliance are culturally and linguistically responsive, and some are also culturally and linguistically specific, HIV Alliance works with culturally specific community-based organizations to offer services specifically for BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ people. Our agency currently receives funding from the CDC to provide services specifically to BIPOC WPUD in Oregon. We have staff and offices based in the rural communities that they serve. We also employ many bilingual staff to accommodate Spanish-speaking communities, including our bilingual harm reduction PSS in Washington County. And we are also seeking bilingual candidates for the open Washington County PSS position. Our staff have access to phone-based language interpretation. We also provide access to ASL interpreters.
Wonderful. No, there's something in the background. Got it. I thought maybe you sounded a million miles away there for a second. So,
can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. For Medicaid, it says that they will not use Measure 110 grant funds to cover billable expenses. No requested budget items will be used to cover billable costs. In addition, we're leveraging non-Measure 110 funding sources for this project. And Kirsten, if I'm missing anything, jump in.
Okay.
I have that peers are both in the field or in the office. And then for screening and assessment is the office. SUD, peers are in the office, housing office, and harm reduction both. Type of housing is hotel-based or emergency, rental assistance, financial assistance, and housing-related transportation assistance. And then harm reduction is naloxone, syringe exchange, wound care, safer sex supplies, and clinical testing.
Awesome. That's everything. Thanks, Danielle. Any questions or anything to add, Kirsten?
I don't have them applying. I didn't think they were applying for assessment and SUD treatment. I just wanted to double check that.
Just screening peers.
Okay, so we have that. Yeah. Perfect. As far as the housing program, it was basically housing navigation, not actual housing for individuals who use drugs. So one question I had was whether that would be included in sort of regular case management as opposed to a whole separate housing program or not. Because it seemed like it was part of what peer supports would do, but.
Yeah, that was the question Morgan was asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the organization provide its own housing?
Yeah.
Any other questions about HIV Alliance? Ideal option is Maya and Mark. Mark is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. There's no other questions. Okay. We'll give you the mic.
Great. For ideal, come on. Word document, don't close on me. Ideal option, here it is. The answer to question 7 is ideal option is committed to coordinating or offering to the best of our ability culturally and linguistically specific services in response to preference or request of service user. This includes translator capabilities or care coordination with other culturally specific providers if needed. It is also Ideal Option's responsibility to develop continuing education for staff to be sensitive to and responsive to diverse cultural needs. Ideal Option ensures culturally responsive services by providing a welcoming and respectful space for diverse service users to express their unique needs. All linguistic and translation barriers are addressed by providing verbal translation to individuals of any linguistic cultural background. Ideal Options creates and uses interventions that are patient-centered. Ideal Options engages in continual quality improvement by maintaining open lines of feedback from the population served. All linguistic and translation barriers are addressed by providing verbal translations to individuals. Ideal Options ensures the well-being of our workforce providing livable compensation and holistic health care for all staff. Through these and other acts, we will develop and maintain capacity to deliver culturally and linguistically responsive services as required by our Measure 110 grant agreement and law. This policy applies to all programs and staff employed at Ideal Options without exception. This includes staff and clinics outside of the state of Oregon. For Medicaid billing, yes, Ideal Options offers services that are eligible for Medicaid and other health insurance reimbursement. How they handle the Medicaid billing is Ideal Options is contracted to accept Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, and most private insurances. Currently, 75% of Oregon patients at Ideal Options are covered by Medicaid. All services proposed in this application are to cover services that are not covered under insurance. Each element of our program is below without with an explanation of why Medicaid reimbursement is not an option for funding the program. That includes uninsured treatment, and they have a paragraph about how they work with uninsured treatment, jail treatment, setting up and maintaining jail MAT program, and peer outreach specialist. And so, anyway, so that's kind of the three. I can go into more detail if you like.
No, that's great. And they're just
Okay.
applying for SUD at 258.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Any questions for him? Thank you, Mark. And I put in the chat, need Measure 110 team assist for Juntos Northwest, a new applicant for housing in Howard Outfit. Can I get a Kathy or Kylie?
I'm looking for it.
All right. I'm always I'm like, who's coming off mute? Someone's like digging around who's doing it, but thank you. And I will assist by pulling up their budget.
Okay, we ready for number 7?
Yes, we are.
Okay. They are exclusively organized to offer culturally and linguistically specific services to the Latinx community. Our goal is to create awareness, eliminate stigmas, and reduce barriers to services that reduce drug-related harm and promote health and well-being. Our services are open to all Latino AXE who are at risk of behavioral health and medical problems due to substance use. Approximately 72% of the people we serve to date identify as male, 25% as female, and the remaining 3% as non-binary, two-spirit, transgender, or questioning. Latina women and members of the LGBTQ plus community continue to encounter obstacles and stigmas that dissuade them from seeking assistance. The absence of culturally and linguistically specific treatment services that are specific to this community is a significant obstacle, as there are very few in Oregon. They recognize that they are dedicated to expanding their efforts to ensure that the Latina with intersectional identities and needs have access to the services they need.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've got their budget up. Juntos Northwest, Washington County, just triple checking. The ask is for 1.6 million in housing that one of the two reviewers recommended funding. And it funds a case manager, a half-time live-in house manager. So I don't have the narrative up, Kylie. If you do, if there's a specific
Yeah, I've got it. In terms of you're in the housing portion, right? They currently operate Abuela's House, a 4-bed transitional recovery home for single Latina women and Latina women and children. residents can live in a Willis house for 6 to 8 months. With a CADCIR case manager develop individual recovery plan, which can include SUD treatment, mental health counseling, medical care, employment assistance, financial planning, legal services, and development of plan for permanent housing. I do not see anything about transitional housing within that space. But their harm reduction strategies do include rental assistance, basic needs assistance, transportation assistance.
There's 2 FTE, harm reduction workers, harm reduction outreach position. That's 2 individuals and yeah. Basic needs is a harm reduction team connects them to services, including emergency transportation, phones, bus access, storage, payments for medication. It does not describe naloxone or other harm reduction.
Yeah, I'm scanning the, they do. So it says here, harm reduction strategies. So like I said, the rental assistance, basic needs assistance, transportation, assistance to prevent reoccurrences of use that can lead to crime, self-harm, reduced community safety. And then they talk about community outreach and education, and overdose prevention. And it says our outreach team will provide instruction on administering naloxone and distribute naloxone kits at community events, schools, and community centers through street outreach, as well as include, and they're educating community members, including youth, about fentanyl risks, and they're distributing test strips. And there seems to be support groups for basic needs, food, navigation services, etc.
Great. And the last thing I'll share is program costs. It includes a half a FTE of the executive director, a half of an FTE for HR and contract compliance, which is shared between Multnomah and Washington counties, and then just a bunch of costs that it takes to run a program, from phones and equipment and software and bookkeeping and things like that. Any questions about this application, either the narrative or their budget, before we move to LifeWorks? And LifeWorks is back to Kirsten.
Hi, still here. How's everybody doing?
It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
So LifeWorks is just applying for peer support at 1.6 with no program costs. Could you read question 7 and talk about?
Yes, I can. Here we go. All right. LifeWork Northwest provides intersectional, culturally and linguistically specific and responsive outpatient and residential substance use treatment services in Washington County. Our services work to reduce barriers that can impact someone's ability to access treatment services. For instance, our women's residential program in Washington County provides wraparound mental health, substance use, and peer mentor services to women struggling with substance use disorder. We recognize that women may not access residential services if they do not have adequate care in place for their children. Our women's residential treatment program in Washington County permits children from infant to age 9 to enter the program, which reduces a large barrier for women and allows them to bond with their children as they engage in treatment services. All LifeWorks Northwest staff are required to attend at least 4 hours of training on culturally responsive services annually, addressing systemic racism and how to respond to and understand the inequities and disproportionate impact of criminalization of addiction and lack of access to services. LifeWorks Northwest has a robust system to elicit feedback from clients, direct service provider staff, and community members to determine what gaps are in the community and work to fill these gaps in the behavioral health field. LifeWorks Northwest has many years of experience working with these populations across the continuum of care we provide. For this project, we offer Latinx clients culturally and linguistically specific services. However, we also depend on our community partners to continue to improve on the system of care that has historically underserved these populations because we have not been able to meet all the needs they experience. That's number 7. So in my notes, I wrote the peer services category is robust and includes a bilingual recovery mentor, a supervisor, and 2 employment specialists. And as far as Medicaid billing, they can bill Medicaid health insurance and also have contracts with Washington County and Access General Funds to cover cost of indigent clients, was their answer. And then they service, let's see, the services provided before clients are enrolled are not billable. In addition, the employment services program is not billable to Medicaid, nor is their outreach service is also not billable. And as far as, what were the other questions? Oh, in the field, services in community, let's see. One service, you figure it. Sorry. Let's see. So proposed services, ongoing peer counseling and support 3 FTE. Would like to propose ongoing peer counseling and support services in Washington County, specifically a full-time culturally focused Spanish-speaking CRM position to continue serving the needs of the community. I think it was mostly in the office, but I wanted to make sure. So they also, the employment support services, let's see. Does anybody else review this with me? I didn't know if
Yes, but they're not present today.
Okay. I mean, it says the funding will allow for ongoing outreach services for employment support, but compared to our other really peer support services that are out in the community, I'm not really seeing it in this application.
Okay. So not explicit either way.
Not explicit.
Okay. Great. Any questions on this application for LifeWorks? And flagging for Measure 110 folks, we need an assist for Lutheran since their reviewers are not here and I already have the project scope up, and we'll start with number 7 just to get
I have number 7 ready to go.
All right, I'll pull up their budget.
All right. We good to go, everyone? No questions
No
for
questions.
LifeWorks? Okay. So Lutheran Community Services Northwest serves more than 5,000 individuals each year, of whom over 70%, that is 3,547 folks, are immigrants or refugees. In Washington County, we have served refugees and immigrant communities for 50 years, providing refugee resettlement and wraparound services that respond to the unique needs and challenges facing these communities with cultural and linguistic competence. We are currently serving Afghan, Ukrainian, African, Kurdish, Bhutanese, Nepali, Burmese, and Russian communities. Our behavioral health program provides culturally and linguistically specific mental health services for 760 individuals in Washington County and includes refugees, immigrants, and other marginalized individuals dealing with SUD.
Great. Thank you. So Lutheran is applying for screening and assessment. Their SUD, do you have open, Kylie, the fiscal narrative about their ability to bill and ensuring the funds won't be supplanted?
They are eligible for Medicaid. However, it looks like their low barrier treatment services are for those who are indigent or uninsured. And they have certified OHP assisters who can enroll client in health insurance. But it appears that it is for folks that are uninsured.
Okay. Fantastic. And in the budget, for SUD includes two CADCs, 4 linguistically and culturally responsive certified recovery mentors and lead sub case manager for peer supports. There's an outreach and engagement coordinator and 4 linguistically and culturally responsive certified recovery mentors and associated costs with outreach, cell phones and the like. And they are not applying for housing or harm reduction. Kylie, can you see from the narrative at all if the peers are going to be in the field or in the office?
Yeah, I'm trying to skim through it. It looks like they're integrated through SUD. That they do have web-based behavioral health technology. That includes client-facing mobile application for 24/7 live peer support for digital screenings and referrals. I'm looking right now for in the field outreach. I'm not necessarily seeing that, but that doesn't mean that it's just not there.
I will share in terms of the program budget. There some FTE, including a CADC2 outreach and engagement coordinator. So it looks like maybe they built the percentages of these FTE throughout the service areas. And also $80,000 a year for client assistance. And other IT and other office, running a program needs. So if we're not finding explicitly in the application as we're covering for the reviewers who are not present today, whether the peers are support or in office or otherwise, I'd rather just say we're not able to discern quickly from the application. Any questions about Lutheran's application? While I look up MHAAO's reviewers who are next.
That's also me.
It is you, Nicole Egler too. All right, no questions. We'll move to MHAO, Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon.
Just pull up my scoring sheet.
And MHAAO applied for screening and peers and harm reduction with some small program cost. The screening, we normally just quantify how much, which is 364,000, and then 1.8 for peers and 461,000 for harm reduction. So Kylie, you want to read question 7 and focus on the peers?
Absolutely. I just want to also let you know that the Lutheran Community Service Northwest, while it does say screening is in blue, there was a change just within, there was just a edit from one of the reviewers that is actually that they do, yes, recommend screening. So that should be a green for the 669,000. But for MHAAO, question 7 is they're deeply committed to providing culturally and linguistically specific services that are tailored to meet the unique needs of diverse cultural communities across Oregon. As a peer-run organization, they prioritize the voices and experiences of those they serve, understanding that everyone's recovery journey is personal and profoundly influenced by their cultural and linguistic background. Our dedication to cultural responsiveness is central to our mission and is integrated into every aspect of our work, from direct peer support services to community collaboration, education, and advocacy. Through the BURN program, we ensure that our peers offer culturally and linguistically appropriate services. Our M110 Multnomah County BURN funded Latino PWS team is compiled of individuals who come directly from the communities they serve, both through their longstanding connections to it, as well as their own lived experiences as peers. We recognize that one size does not fit all when it comes to culturally specific services. If we do not have an in-house program that is best fit for an individual's cultural or linguistic needs, we make it a priority to connect them with a trusted community partner who can provide the most appropriate care. This approach ensures that no one is left without the culturally relevant support they need on their path to recovery. MHAAO's philosophy is of honoring lived experience and promoting self-directed recovery that aligns with the values and purpose of Measure 110, allowing us to effectively serve and empower diverse communities through Oregon. So they did discuss Multnomah, even though this is Washington. So I would just like to say that.
And they are an existing applicant.
They are. They are not eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. From what I could garner through the where they're serving their folks, while it's not explicit, it does appear that there's both peers in the field and in the office, and that screening and SUD and harm reduction are also peers are integrated in both the field and the office. And in terms of their harm reduction offerings, they do offer naloxone, wound care, safer sex supplies. I did not see anything around syringe exchange or clinical testing.
Thanks, Kylie. Zeb, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say I really appreciate how they answered the question around cultural specific services. Like, really answered the question, not cookie cuttered it. I don't know if cuttered's a word, I just made it up, but I've been on Zoom for 4 hours, so but I really appreciate that, because so often we're seeing just, a blanket statement acknowledging the importance of it, but not what they do to make sure that those needs are met. So I appreciate that they are connecting them to providers to meet their cultural needs. Thank you.
Fantastic. Kylie, really nice job. Thank you. Any questions for Kylie? Or comments? Next up is Miracles, while folks are thinking of any questions. And that would be Evelyn and Rachel. Rachel, are you still with us?
I am. Here I am.
Take us away. Number 7, please.
Okay. Let me pull up my thing. All right. So number 7, the Miracles Club is a Black peer-led recovery center committed to providing safe spaces for marginalized, historically oppressed racial and ethnic groups. We are rooted in the African American culture and community and serve all looking to reduce harm from alcohol and drug abuse. Our mission is to maintain a recovery-focused environment where all people feel safe to heal. We have served our community for over 30 years and offer culturally specific services for the Black African American community, bilingual culturally specific services for the Latinx Hispanic community, and culturally specific services for the LGBTQIA2S+ community. For Medicaid billing, they said no to both. Their peers are in the field and in the office. And it is a peer-led organization, so their peers are integrated into their housing as well. They are offering transitional housing. They're requesting funds to provide recovery housing in Washington County for 32 individuals per year. And they're not asking for harm reduction services.
Great. So that was an accidental 0. That should be blank for harm reduction. Thanks, Rachel. Any questions?
Just real quick, I'd like to add, like they said in their application, sounds like they've been around for a long time doing great work. I was going to make a note to try to keep them fully funded as possible as we move forward with our options. Thank you.
You said. And thank you, Rachel. And next we've got Mountain View Recovery doing business as Knapp Street Recovery. We have Tammy or Sarah.
I'm here. Yeah. So I got mine up. Do you want me to start, Sarah, and then you can jump in if I flounder?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, holding on. Okay, the answer to number 7. MVR provides culturally and linguistically specific services, primarily serving the Latinx community and indigenous communities. Currently, MVR has a house with several Spanish-speaking only tenants and a bilingual assistant manager who assists with translating house matters and providing support to residents. This ensures that Spanish-speaking clients can effectively communicate their needs and receive culturally relevant support. Additionally, MVR partners with the Native American Rehabilitation Association, or NARA, to support Indigenous communities. Through this partnership, MVR5 collaborates with NARA counselors to offer housing and recovery services to Indigenous clients, ensuring they receive culturally appropriate care throughout their recovery journey. These efforts demonstrates MVR's commitment to reducing barriers and improving access to recovery for these underserved communities. And then there are Medicaid. MVR does not currently bill Medicaid or other health insurance for services or offer services eligible for Medicaid or other health insurance reimbursement. However, with the support of this grant, MVR plans to hire staff experienced in billing Medicaid and other health reimbursements, insurance reimbursements, which will significantly expand our capacity to provide eligible services and explore billing for treatment and recovery support in the future. Their peers are in the field and in the office. They mostly focus on peer support in the housings. All right, did I miss anything that you want to call out?
What kind of housing?
Oh, hold on, I kept something out just for that.
All right, so I've got their the housing information from their budget narrative, if that's helpful.
Yep, please.
Yeah, let's see. They are looking for, and apologies, there's a little bit of a quirk with this spreadsheet, so I'm like navigating the cells in an interesting way. But anyway, the funding will go towards maintenance to cover building repairs and appliance repairs for the Recovery Housing Building in Washington County, a QuickBooks subscription to assist in the financial tracking and reporting, property management software, Appfolio, to track client ledgers and resident notes, and it's an online portal for rent payments. They also would like to provide housing rents. The portion pays for direct housing costs and covers rent for 15 total beds for clients' first 4 months of housing. Rents are set at $700 per month with a 3% increase per year for the rising cost of utilities and rent.
Thank you.
Sorry, and just on that note, their primary focus is providing transitional housing to individuals recovering from substance use disorders. They operate 9 recovery homes with 75 beds in Multnomah County, 65 in Clackamas, and 15 in Washington County. The homes are designed to support individuals at various stages of recovery, offering them a safe, stable environment where they can work on rebuilding their lives. I just want to make sure that was out.
Thank you. Anything else or any questions from anybody? And Kathy, while folks are thinking, you're up next for Northwest Instituto Latino de Adicciones.
Northwest Instituto Latino is, El Jardín is currently the only provider of culturally and linguistically specific recovery drop-in centers for Latinos in the state of Oregon. This summer, the Washington County Office of Equity and Inclusion and Community Engagement approved and certified NWIL El Jardín as culturally specific organization. Although we provide services for all self-identified Latinos, we specialize in serving monolingual Spanish speakers and Latinos that are categorically ineligible for social safety nets and Medicaid, basically undocumented workers, persons. Because we are an organization that is operated by and for Latinos, we understand that there is no one monolithic Latino community, such as within our services, we prioritize intersectional identity within the Latino community by providing culturally and linguistically specific services for LGBTQ plus Latino clients, elderly Latinos, second and third generational Latinos who struggle with imposter syndrome or culturalization stress, Latinos facing immigration challenges, and Latinos struggling with co-occurring disorders.
Thanks, Kathy. And they are applying for peers and harm reduction.
Correct.
There's one yes and one no for each of those areas. Are the peers in the field or in the office?
Correct. So they can bill Medicaid, but they don't provide any formal treatment services nor diagnose substance use. Both are needed to bill Medicaid. They intend to be a supplemental treatment to the continuum of care with long-term recovery support services that help Latinos achieve and maintain long-term recovery as defined by SAMHSA. Their peer services are in the community. They are currently a provider for burn services, and underneath their peer stuff, they do screening, nutritional assistance, connection to behavioral health services and legal services. They also connect clients to housing and education resources. It looks like there's $760,000 over the 4 years for client support funds, which cover a variety of stuff. Let me see here. Underneath their peer, so their support funds, where is that? I left off on my writing. That's what I did. So it looks like it covers staff. They've got one FTE peer mentor supervisor. They have a recovery center site supervisor. They have a culturally specific burns and systems navigator, 2 of those actually, and case manager supervisor at 0.5, and a recovery center support staff at 1 FTE, and they have 4 recovery mentors. So that's where most of their stuff is going. Their harm reduction was not super clear. In their proposed budget, they have $18,000 per year, which is $72,000 overall over the 4 years. And it's the cost of hygiene kits for clients and vehicle rental for harm reduction outreach.
You. Any questions? Jim?
Yeah, and I don't know if the reviewers are here, that I just wanted to know why one person said no to this organization, it looks like, for both service areas.
Well, I liked it, so I voted him in. So that would be the other person, which is Sarah Hubner.
Yeah.
She here or not here?
He's not here. Do you?
Oh, okay. I have her thing up here.
Awesome.
And she wrote quite a bit in the program notes for recommendations. While the proposal request continues funding for Measure 110 supported services and program expansion, it lacks detail on specific activities, budget allocation, or how the funding will be utilized over the next 4 years. The organization highlights its role as the only Latino-focused provider with recovery drop-in centers in Oregon addressing the needs of monolingual Spanish speakers and Latinos ineligible for Medicaid. However, it does not describe how this funding will be implemented, and the activities listed in the proposal generally do not align with the budget. Very little distinction is made between programmatic request/activities related to peer services and harm reduction. Several aspects of the budget appear to be erroneously large or misestimated as too high. Most staffing salaries appear to be budgeted high. In peer support section, appreciation of salaries is far beyond what is reported for 4.1% annually. Budget list number of individuals served slightly higher than the milestone appears to be limited, but still valuable reach to clients. They have over 400 people per year, and it's unclear on whether the budget is appropriate for this volume of service provision. Past award was significantly smaller at a 1.3 mil and has not been fully expended. Unclear if all will be expended by the end of the fiscal cycle. Successes do not clearly indicate which metric are double counted for one individual. She felt that it lacked a strategy on that. So They did get 1.3 million in their current funding, and they still have, as of October, back in October is when this was all filled out and signed in, they still had a remaining of 579,000. So that still gave them another, 6, 7, 8 months that they had to expend. I felt opposite of that, obviously, but maybe she saw things that I didn't see.
Deb?
Yeah, Kathy, I think you just answered. I was going to ask you how you felt about that because, yeah, I mean, back in October to when the funding cycle ends, they have time to spend that money. So it sounds like a really good application from what I've heard.
I felt it was a really good application that they, have worked on it, and I felt like they are on the expenditure of funds. They are where they're supposed to be because they still have remaining months to go on their grant. So I've seen worse. So I feel like that they're right about where they're supposed to be at.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for answering the question. I just wanted to know because what you had read sounded great. So I was like, why would somebody say no to this? So thanks for asking.
I don't know. Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know. It seemed complete opposite, but I'm always open to other people's opinion about stuff. So
well, we had 2 reviewers, right? And I know it's super dynamic when both reviewers can be here. Okay, it is 4:46, and we just finished Instituto Latino. I think we should hop into Oregon Recovers, but I want to make sure we stop a few minutes early, since we didn't get done today, about when we can reconvene. So, Tatiana, are you still here, or Sean, to discuss Oregon Recovers?
I'm here.
Great.
Yeah, yep.
So if you could read question 7, and they usually apply for just harm reduction, which is the case in Washington County too.
Actually, on this one, they did actually apply for peer support. The proposed budget for peer support was $253,522.83.
We'll take another look see at that. Thanks, Sean.
Yep, no problem. So for Oregon Recovers, question 7, we do not currently provide this, but can and will immediately adapt the website and mobile app for Spanish through direct translation as soon as we are able, with other languages coming soon through auto translation. They do not bill Medicaid. Their peers, they're wanting to build an app, and basically their peers would be most of the time just trying to get people to services, it sounded like, as well as they distribute naloxone at tabling events. But other than that, they don't really do much when it comes to peers or harm reduction. And most of the money that they're getting or trying to request for harm reduction would be spent on not only developing the web app, but also creating training materials for illustrated Narcan usage.
Thank you, Sean. So we've got Kathy put in the chat. They didn't, attachment A is where people, like the very first page of the application where applicants need to tick off the boxes of what they're applying for. It sounds like they did not select peers. Gotcha. But in the budget, there is a peers budget. So we should at least note that, I guess, in the, what's this called? This has been a long meeting. This is called a chart. So we'll put it in there. Thank you, Sean. Anything else? Yep. Nope. Okay. Any questions? We have, this is a familiar proposal. We've seen it in a couple other counties. This one unique to Multnomah. I think we're going to stop there, and we'll pick up with Nicole Egler and Stanley Minetti with Recovery Works Northwest when we start back up again. I'm gonna stop screen sharing. And so we can chat just for a couple of minutes for those of us who are left about when we can meet again. So Carly, tomorrow we have an OAC meeting all afternoon, correct?
Yes. I was looking at a potential time on Thursday from 10:30 to 12:30. Or do we want all of those OAC meetings? We may need them.
We need to have this group meet urgently because the OAC is going to be waiting on this county to get done. So I would imagine Thursday, the 20th at 10 would be fabulous if we can come back together. Thumbs up from Zeb. Morgan dances. Okay. That's a
All right,
yes.
I'll get that changed.
And I don't know if it'll take 2 hours, right? We got a handful of providers to discuss, and then make a recommendation, which, as we know, is not going to be a fun activity. But looking at the list, we've got one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, only 8 applicants left for Washington County, our last county. So we'll come back together. I don't know why I'm all blurry. Sorry, that's kind of how I feel. So we'll come back together Thursday morning and pick up where we left off. Many, many thanks to everybody. See you at our last one. Bye.